I think we're at 7 o'clock, so let's call the meeting to order and note attendance, please. Okay. First up, we have our superintendent search items. There's several to discuss. Sarah and Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here.
Sure.
I'm sure you've seen we've got quite a lot of agenda items to go over. So first I just want to know, are there any questions before I begin? All right, well, let's just dive in then. So the first thing that needs to be done in order for us to go into executive session later on in the search process is the position needs to be declared vacant as of July 1st, 2020. And that would take a motion and a vote by the board.
Okay.
Okay.
And you want us to do these like right now so we can move forward, or do you want to go through all of these items and then at the sort of end proceed with voting?
I have no preference in the
preference.
order.
I think we just go one by one.
Okay, works for me.
I think it's faster.
I like it.
Okay.
Okay. I would certainly accept a motion to declare the position vacant. Seems somewhat implied, but we can.
I move to declare the superintendent position vacant as of July 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Second it?
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Great, good job, guys. All right, so next we have our calendar, and I believe you all probably have a copy in front of you. I have just a slightly cleaned up version where I put today's date for today and adjusted when it's going to be open based on us meeting this evening. Good. Thank you. What I'd like to know is, are there any conflicts, concerns with this schedule? Anybody have
One
any
thing that
questions?
was sort of coming up as a possible question
Sure.
with a lot of superintendent positions opening up and lots of moving around, if it would be recommended that we might consider shortening our window to receive applicants.
So we can do that, but the reason why we have it this way is to get us through spring break. It's not going to, I'm assuming, not very feasible to have your whole board meet during spring break to go over screening those applications and moving forward. And I would not recommend going any less than 4 weeks for the
Okay.
application period being open.
And 4 weeks puts us at the beginning of spring
Right.
break. Okay.
Basically.
I was thinking, I thought we had an extra week in there, but, okay.
Any other questions or concerns?
Do we don't receive any information about applicants until the end of the period, correct?
Correct. So very much like the interim search, we're going to meet and be trained on screening the applications, and I'm going to show you how to use our new application platform. It's called Revelis. So instead of those jump drives, you guys are going to be doing it all through a system online.
Okay.
And so we'll meet, we'll go over all of that, we'll get our confidentiality agreement signed, and then you'll get access to everything.
We do that on the 29th, is that right? Or, no, the 31st?
31st.
31st, okay.
Give you guys a couple minutes to look through this.
Anybody else have any concerns or questions about the calendar?
Yeah, I guess only, oh, go ahead. No, only that we, and I think that's the purpose of the calendar, so you really stick to it. Because I am seeing several districts who seem to be kind of almost to the point of wrapping up. And so it's a little disconcerting, a little alarming. So I guess my preference is, let's just make sure we move forward in a really timely way and try not to delay
Yes.
at all.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. We've looked very closely at this and been very strategic about when we do certain dates, and that way we wrap up in time for contract negotiations and for your new superintendent, assuming that they are currently in a position somewhere to give notice as well.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
So,
Sorry, Shelley, did you have a question? I cut you off.
No, I was just, we are not going to have a work session in March, correct? That Monday of spring break? We
Correct,
canceled
that's
it.
right.
So are we, and there was no makeup date for that or thought process on that?
The thought
or
process
what was
in my
that?
mind was
Yeah.
that we were gonna have extra scheduled meetings to go through this process anyway. So I didn't
Okay.
see a lot of cause to schedule a makeup for the work session
Okay,
when we're already gonna be having extra meetings. That was my thinking.
so the extra meetings specifically for this topic, what would have been on the, would there have been other topics on the
Paul
work
and I
session?
talked, and there wasn't anything specific that we
Nothing
had in mind.
specific?
I mean, there are
Okay.
things one could bring up, but
Right,
there was
and
nothing
that's-
that was sort of timely that was on the agenda.
Okay, okay. That's what I was just concerned about. So March 9th is our regular public meeting,
so this,
and then we select, okay,
so we're gonna go over the screening committee
Okay.
process when we're done with this calendar, but March 9th will be the
Okay.
night that the board appoints screening committee members.
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
I think that's good.
If all looks good, then this needs to be formally adopted by the board.
Okay.
I move to approve the executive search calendar.
Second it?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, moving right along. Great job, guys. I've got your proposed qualities and qualifications. It's been handed out a few times. It's been posted on board book. I'm gonna hand it back out to you all. I haven't changed anything on it. This is essentially the summary of my meetings with your staff and community members, as well as the summary that, not summary, so, survey that went out for 2 weeks back in October.
Sure.
And so what I did was I looked at all of that data. I looked at, essentially what bubbled to the top, the consistent patterns of thought of what I was hearing from all of your stakeholder groups. And then I put those in order, essentially, of what seemed to be the most important and so on, and summarized it here. And so the idea is, after reviewing and editing as you'd like, the board will formally adopt these qualities and qualifications, and then they will also be embedded through the rest of our process. Applications, interview questions, etc. So it's very foundational to
Right.
this search.
Absolutely. So the one thing that I see is missing, this is, well, first of all, let me back up and say I like this because it's very relationally focused, which is, I think, is really important for us right now. But the one thing that I feel like is missing, and maybe my the rest of the board doesn't agree, but we'll talk through it, is something that I would describe as like a really someone who's really creative and innovative and forward-thinking in terms of instruction and programs, and someone who really can really think creatively about developing new ways of doing things, right? And I'm not sure what the best way is to frame that, but you have a background in teaching, which is of course important, and then so the other foundational one of finance, and the rest of them feel again very relational, and I don't think that's bad at all, but I feel like we're missing a little something in the area of kind of an innovator, sort of a best practice oriented, someone who's really focused on just creatively solving problems, and I guess best practice focused is one way of putting it, I don't know what anyone else thinks, if that's important to put in, or if it's lacking, or if anyone has any other insights.
Are you thinking maybe that someone who is more, Or who is on the forward thinking of like curriculum and strategies and methods of teaching and such and such?
Well, I think we've talked about a superintendent as
have-
being an instructional leader,
Right,
right?
right.
And so I don't necessarily see that
Right,
reflected.
exactly.
And I don't
see
know
what you're
how
saying.
to, I mean, I know that there's, again, that there's a lane for that individual as well, and that they
Mm-hmm.
really rely on their teachers and their administrators to really drive that at the school level.
Mm-hmm.
But you would really want someone who sort of had that leadership mindset of setting the tone for student
Mm-hmm.
achievement and high expectations and that kind of thing. And I don't know where that's specifically reflected here.
Mhm.
Yeah, Janet, I agree with,
I do
I
too.
agree with that.
Yeah, I'm open to the
I think it's
idea,
a
because
very
I can't formulate the words.
I know, it's, I keep
It's
throwing
a
out
good
new ones,
thought.
and I'm like,
Right.
it's something
Yeah.
around that. I bet Sarah will be able to
It is a good thought.
craft it well.
Sure.
No pressure. I don't have any concern with adding another bullet. I think these are going to drive, our interview questions are going to drive, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with the idea that we would add something
Mhm.
like that.
It's a good point.
Okay.
She makes, I agree. So the buzzwords are creative, innovative, forward-thinking curriculum, student achievement.
Yeah.
I like
So-
visionary.
Visionary?
there
Oh,
you
that's a
go.
good one, yeah.
It's a good buzzword too. So let's try to put something together.
An instructional leader that is,
A visionary instructional leader.
And collaborative, I would say, because
Mhm.
a vision is not just one person's vision, it's many people's vision.
Okay.
Visionary and
We do have
Right,
collaborate
that's what I was going to say.
in another bullet.
Sure, that's right.
We also have an empowering leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
We could change that. To say,
I think that bullet, I think what Janet's
Well-
after is the innovative instructional leader part.
Mm-hmm. Because the one about collaboration is really about consensus building, right?
is.
It's about teamwork. And so we're really looking for someone to kind of spearhead, or kind of lead the charge on,
Yeah.
on visionary thinking. And blah, 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 blah.
But that specifically, this one specifically talks about respectful work environment.
Right.
So we're trying to get to the words of, student achievement, curriculum, more on the
okay.
academic side,
Mhm.
academia side,
Right.
I suppose.
All right, let's try this on for size. An innovative instructional leader that sets the tone and high expectations for student achievement.
Works for me.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Could you say an innovative and visionary?
Innovative
I'd like the word
Can you,
visionary.
can you put visionary in there
Yeah.
somewhere?
and
And then I
like
think
that
it
word.
captures everything.
Instructional leader.
Okay,
Something a little
an
more
innovative,
encompassing.
visionary instructional leader that sets the tone and high expectations of student achievement.
Can we get curriculum in there somewhere?
Okay.
I think that's implied when you say student
Instructional.
achievement, that
That includes
you can't-
curriculum.
yeah, you
Everything
can't get
else.
that without
Right.
some
That
of those
sounds
pieces.
great.
Also,
Okay.
keep in mind that you guys are gonna be the
Sounds great.
ones developing the interview questions.
The questions,
And if you
right.
really wanna focus on curriculum,
Good
And
visionary and all that.
Get a little bit more
we
weedy
can-
in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just appreciate having, I think visionary was a good word. I think having that in there kind of says it all, so
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah.
So everyone
Works for
likes
me.
that last sentence I read?
I was good with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Very good.
Any other concerns or additions, changes that you'd like to see for the Q and Qs?
I like the list.
Mm-hmm. I like it especially because it's just, mostly it's just plain language. It's easily understood. It's not trying to be too flamboyant. It's just, and it's very down to earth about, really what's important to us as a district. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Exactly. And so, once these are adopted, it'll be part of the application process. The applicants will be asked to write a statement on how they meet the qualities and qualifications for this
Okay.
position.
Okay.
So, you'll get to
Very
read all of that.
That's good.
Great.
So then, should make a motion to adopt the Q and Qs as amended.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the Q and Qs that are included.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the amended qualities and qualifications signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
You're just flying through.
We
Okay,
are.
so I'm
We're
gonna
back to
make a clean
business.
copy of this and I'll send it out
Excellent.
to Debbie in the morning and we'll get it all dispersed.
Great.
Good. All right, moving on to our next item. Again, this is not a new document, but I'm handing out a new copy of the salary comparison that was done.
Okay.
We all like paper, right? So this takes a look at other districts of the same size in Oregon. And then on the bottom half of the page, it also looks at districts in your area. So you can see
Thank you.
how
Okay.
their salaries look. And then essentially, this is just to give you an idea of what's out there, to start your discussion on what your salary range is going to be. I do have a recommendation based on the average on the top half of the page. 135 to 145, that gives you a $10,000 difference. If you want to make it a little bit more and go 15, I would do 135 to 150. And the bottom number really needs to be that bottom number. If you started at 135, you're not gonna go below.
Right, right.
Yes,
Question,
yes.
are the salaries listed here, are those current year, last year, or next year numbers?
Last
This is the 18-19 numbers.
1819.
That's why I asked the question.
Mhm.
So be consider, you have to be thoughtful of, some
Right.
of these jobs are presently held by superintendents who were hired this year and have higher salaries
Mm.
Right.
than what is listed here.
Right.
Thank you, Paul. That's a good point.
So you're talking about next year.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah, it'll be a 2-year difference.
Exactly. I mean, a couple of things come to my mind. You know, when this conversation came up for the interim
Sure.
discussion, seemed like an eternity ago, it wasn't that long ago.
No.
You know, we talked about, and we looked at a similar comparator, although it was, I think, a year removed from these numbers. I look at how much has gone on in this district in the last year. I think we have to err on the side of higher than lower numbers to attract anybody. So just throwing that out there,
I would agree.
given trials and tribulations that have been occurring. So my 2 cents.
Agreed.
I was thinking the same thing. I think it is much healthier for us to do that system-wiser. So I'd agree wholeheartedly.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
How would people think about starting at 140 and doing a 10, like 140 to 150?
I was actually going to suggest 140 to 155,
Okay.
given the 2-year difference between these
Oh,
numbers.
good point.
It's
What could
2
we,
years.
what could we assume, what's the percentage increase over time? Like, what could we assume these numbers have done or will have done in 2 years? No knowing really.
I can't say.
No, okay.
I'm sure a while.
Well, at least a few
years,
$1,000s. I
So you
mean,
want to give
Figure
50?
3% is just a
3% is
rough.
around 5,000
Yeah.
a year.
It
okay,
is.
okay.
Mm-hmm. We just do the COLA increase.
Mhm.
It feels to me like that window, 140 to 155, gives us ample flexibility.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not going to be under 140, I can tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
So that gives us ample,
Yeah,
I think, room,
yeah.
I hope.
I was gonna say 145, start.
For start.
You mean
Mhm.
go between 145 and 155?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's where we're
Yeah.
at now.
Yeah,
So that's,
you have a 15.
we're not going to go backwards, I'm pretty sure.
No,
Mhm.
we're not.
Just saying.
So,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing start at 145 and go to 155. Does
That's where I
everyone
think I'm-
agree on
I'm
that?
in
Yeah.
favor of that.
I think
Yes.
145.
Okay. 145 to 155. Okay, so I don't need a motion on this because it makes it a lot easier if we need to make adjustments later down the road.
Okay.
This will be published on the job page. Essentially, it'll go out in the marketing what the salary range is.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Moving on.
We are.
Very good.
Okay, so if you look at the calendar that you just adopted, we've got training for the screening committee on March 31st. What I'd like to do is set the times if we can for that, as well as the next meeting, which is on April 8th, and that's where we're gonna come back, we're gonna look at the rankings, we're gonna have conversations about the applicants, and the board's gonna deliberate and determine who they wanna invite for interviews. So the April 8th meeting is going to be a long one. The March 31st, I would say a minimum of an hour and a half.
So that March 31st is a Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
It's a
Yeah, I'm-
regular meeting for you guys.
Well, that has to be a Monday,
Yeah, well,
March 31st. So March 31st is
Is
a
a Tuesday.
Tuesday. March 30th is Monday.
Yes.
That's not a regular.
is our regular meeting
Oh.
scheduled for the
Our
31st
regular-
that
Yeah.
week?
Do
That
you
month?
think we
No,
could?
March, it was supposed to be March 23rd because
Right.
that's spring break, but it got canceled.
Right,
And so
Oh, so
the
that is
next
not-
Monday is the 30th.
Yeah.
But that's
So
not a
we have
regular.
down here, But that's not
in
even a regular
March.
meeting. Our regular meeting was supposed to be the 23rd.
Sorry about that, that's a typo on my part.
That's okay.
So March 31st would be a special meeting.
Special meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. Okay.
You said an hour and a half
Yes.
approximately? Okay.
Yes. So considering that it's a special meeting and you won't have, in theory, other agenda items, you could start at 7.
And it's entirely executive session for the purpose of that training, or is it entirely public?
It is a combination of
Okay.
the two.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
is. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably be in public meeting for about a half an hour.
Got it.
The bulk of it will be in executive session because this time we're gonna look at a live application
Mhm.
through the portal, and show you guys how you're
Okay.
gonna do it.
Mm,
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
I think 7 sounds just fine on a Tuesday evening. Does anybody see that differently? No, it'd be the
The March
31st.
31st, yeah.
31st, yes.
7 o'clock?
That's what I'm
Mhm.
suggesting, I'm just throwing that out.
That's fine.
I will not be here. It's my son's 16th birthday.
Okay.
So we'll be celebrating.
Okay. So
Sorry about that.
Shelley,
Bring
no,
it
that's
on.
okay.
Bring him along.
Yes,
I'm
everybody
sure
wants
he'd
to
have a
spend
lot
their
to say. He's my youngest.
So Shelley,
a-
you and
yeah.
I will do probably a phone meeting
Okay.
to go over how to do it.
Sounds good.
And we'll do it
Can we move it to the
prob-
30th?
I'm
the next day?
available. That's
What
fine.
if we could-
Whenever you want, because I'm available almost every day.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
let me just do
Okay.
this. Okay, so I will
Okay.
schedule that directly with you.
perfect.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Great. All right, so then April 8th, another special meeting?
Yeah. So
That's
what
a
day is-
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
This one I really would plan for about 3 hours, depending on how much conversation we have about your applicants. It could go a while.
Okay. So maybe start that one earlier if we can, so we're not,
Yeah,
Make it
no, I would
6.
think. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to do a,
Starts at 7. Oh, I'm
six.
sorry, we're
Six,
discussing
maybe?
that right now. Sorry.
well, I
How
mean, in the
about
past, we've done things where we've grabbed pizza or brought your own food or something and tried to do it more through a dinner as opposed to try
Right.
to
Mhm.
tackle it after.
Mhm.
I'm certainly open to that idea. It's either that or we're gonna have to, like you said, start maybe 6 and go to 9 or 9:30, whenever it ends.
right,
That's fine too. I'm just throwing out ideas.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'm happy to start at 5, that works okay
And
with
then
me.
keep
Okay.
in mind, your
5:30?
screening committee will also be a part of this
Oh,
meeting, so if you
right.
are gonna
Do-
provide food, I
Good
would
point.
be
Right.
available for.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
Just trying to think of time. I mean,
Right, yeah,
Or
it has to be
5:30?
a time frame that people can attend.
that's what I'm thinking
Yeah.
too, right? Because if you make it too early, people have
Mhm.
commitments and
Work. Yeah.
other stuff
Work.
after
Work.
school.
5
after
o'clock.
Is 5:30 maybe
What
a
about 5?
possibility
Yeah.
on
I think
on
that'd be-
April 8th?
That'd be tough for people who might work till 5.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
How about just 6 o'clock?
6
6
o'clock,
cents,
okay.
leave it
I
at
would
6.
think 6.
Let's go with 6. That 6 is
Do
fine.
6
by me.
o'clock.
to
I mean, I'm
9.
pretty
It
flexible,
is.
so.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 p.m.
All right.
6 p.m. So we've got 7 p.m. on March 31st, 6 p.m. on April 8th, and then I'd like to nail down the location if we can. Will they both
Oh.
meetings be here?
Here?
I'm assuming unless there's a calendar conflict. I can't imagine, yeah.
we
Let's
just-
assume here.
Sure.
Temporarily
Perfect,
put district
perfect. Yep.
office, and then if that needs to change, we
Yeah.
can change it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I got
So
a question.
Oh, please.
Yes, regarding March 31st, is there any reason why we couldn't meet March 30th? Or do we have to have so many days? Am I looking at an overlap? Because that would be like a Monday.
it
And then Shelley could
gives
be
me
there.
time to finalize the applications in case
Oh, okay.
there's
'cause
anything
they
that
close on
I
the
need to
29th.
communicate with an applicant about. Because
Yeah.
the closing date, I believe, is the Saturday or the Sunday. It's the
Sunday.
Sunday of spring
Yeah.
break. So I've got that one day
Oh,
really to
okay.
just
Okay.
make
And
sure
April-
everything's good to go. And I always, I create that summary sheet. We run in preliminary checks and everything. So that just gives me that buffer.
Oh, okay. I was just
'Cause we
kind of
could-
curious for one of our board
Yeah, we could
members
always
is
move
all.
it to April. I don't know if that works for you, but April 1st, we could just bump it one day later then, since we seem to be tracking with Wednesdays.
Just grab my phone.
Yeah, I don't, not trying to make it complicated, but
April Fools.
if we can make sure everybody's there. April, okay.
Okay. Yes, so really, and then all that would mean if we move it to April 1st, is that gives you guys one less, oh, I am unavailable on.
Okay,
on
no
the
worries,
1st.
no worries.
If if you really want to do it on the 30th, I will make that work.
Wonderful.
So, or your other option is I am available on the 1st, if you want to do that. So, entirely up to you.
How do we feel about the one less day for screening, though? I don't mind more time for screening, but less makes me feel a little nervous.
I'm fine moving it up a day more than I would like moving it out a day.
Sure,
personally.
okay.
Mm,
But I understand your point about
No, it's okay.
wanting the Monday, so.
yeah.
Is everyone available March 30th?
I'm guessing.
Let me just make sure there wasn't another reason why.
I am.
Okay,
Yeah, it appears.
okay.
Okay.
Then let's change that to March 30th. Still at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. All right.
We just, we'll have to make a motion to amend.
Yeah. I was
Oh, no.
just wondering about
Oh,
that.
shoot, okay. Well, let's keep, is there anything else we
Thank
want to
you.
look at and
Thank you.
potentially tweak?
Thank you. That's very kind.
Sure.
If those are the main things you were worried about, I say we adopt the now amended search calendar and move.
So you didn't need to set times for any of the subsequent dates?
Correct.
Correct, okay.
Yep.
It's just
The motivating factor here is to establish those times, locations, and dates for the screening committee because they will also have to make sure that they can be present.
Oh,
Right.
good point.
Okay.
Yes, all right, got it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I move to approve the newly amended executive search calendar.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the now amended superintendent search calendar signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed.
We saved you guys a long phone call.
Okay, so screening committee. I'm assuming that we want one considering the
Yeah.
conversations we had. So, our recommendation is to have an application process. And I can't quite remember if we did that with the interim or if we just
We did not.
appointed
They were
one.
appointed.
Okay, so this gives folks an opportunity to volunteer for it. And the application form is really just a way for them to give you their information and share why they would like to be a part of it. I have a sample that I can share with you that you can use. And it would really be best if those applications went to Debbie at the district office. She compiles them all. we'll need to pick a due date, and then she'll share them with the board, and then on March 9th, you guys will pick your folks.
Okay.
And I also have a recommendation on the makeup of the committee, based on the different categories and so on, and how many people.
Okay. That's helpful.
So,
Great.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna go over the committee makeup, if you will.
Sure. Let's
So,
talk about it.
with a 7-member board, I really recommend you go 12 to 15 screening committee members. I would not go more than 15.
Okay.
And bear in mind that you guys do make up a lot of that community.
Right.
Makeup of the larger screening committee, if you will, of the board and the screening committee. So, essentially, I would say 3 classified, 3 licensed, 3 admin, 3 parents/community, and then make up the difference with confidential staff. What are your
So
thoughts?
you're saying 12 to 15 outside of the board?
Outside of the
Okay,
board.
I thought you were including us in that.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, no, sorry.
got it.
That's
I was like, we've got too many already. Okay,
25.
perfect, all
Okay.
right.
Exactly.
So 12 and then another 3, okay.
So yeah, so that's 12 right there if we went that route. And you said keep a maximum of 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the last category you said?
Confidential staff.
Confidential staff. Okay, all right.
I don't have a concern with that as a general
Yeah,
makeup
I
personally.
think that sounds good.
Know what you guys think.
Hmm.
I found that the screening committee was valuable last time.
Yes, they'll be much larger this time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I agree. It's a wonderful part of the process. It
Yeah.
really gives you a different perspective a lot of times than what you would think of on your own.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so everyone's comfortable with that?
I'm just thinking,
Sure.
back to a particular time.
Okay.
If I have questions, can I just give you an email?
Sure.
I'll just
yeah.
send you an email.
Yeah,
That's fine.
any of you folks can email me
Okay,
anytime you
yeah,
have
I'll just do that
questions.
instead of
Okay.
taking up time of the work session.
Okay, so then, tomorrow morning I will email to Debbie the application form that we have. And then you'll need to, once again, advertise that out
Right.
far and wide. And then include a due date. So if you're gonna make your appointments on March 9th, you're gonna need time individually to review those beforehand. So what day do you wanna have as your due date for those to be handed in?
Debbie, how long do you need before you can
It'll be a priority.
send them out to us?
I can get it posted tomorrow.
Oh,
as soon as I receive it.
like the deadline between
March 9th and,
between the time that
Yeah.
we need to
How about by the end of day
decide.
Thursday the 5th?
Thursday the 5th, yeah.
That gives one day Friday to sort of, get them posted to board book during a work day and everything. We have then the weekend, Friday and the weekend to look at them ahead of time if we.
is that enough time for you?
That's fine.
Does that seem reasonable to everybody else? End of day Friday?
What's the
Or
date
excuse me,
again?
Thursday.
Thursday,
Thursday
March
the 5th?
Thursday the 5th, and then we can.
Because the 9th is 2 weeks from now.
I mean, it's basically only a
Right.
week and a half.
Pretty
And
sure
that's
it
the
is.
weekend of
Time.
It
parent
is.
teacher conference.
But I actually think we won't have any trouble finding more than,
I don't
we'll
think we
already
will.
have more than 12 people submit, I suspect.
I'm sure,
so.
yeah.
Okay, so
That's
then.
gonna be hard to pick.
Yeah.
It could be very hard, depending on how many we get.
Yeah.
So to get it to us on Friday, you're saying to make it due on the Thursday?
Thursday, end of day Thursday.
Does that work for you?
Oh, May.
'Cause then Monday we'll choose.
Yeah.
Thursday, March 5th, okay.
So just to be clear, going back just a little bit,
Sure.
you're having, if we decide to go this route, your recommendation, which we probably will, right, the 3 classified, okay. So we have 3 classified apply
Mm-hmm.
and license apply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Yep, yeah,
That way-
everybody
that-
is welcome to apply, and then from that pool.
Okay, good.
You pick 3
Okay.
and 3.
I just, this is a new process.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I just want to make sure that it's really clear
Of course.
that all of this recommendation is everybody applying. So that's a good good clarification. Because if we get questions and say, I want to be on it, I'll say, well, you have to apply.
Right.
Whether
That's
you're
right.
a
Yes,
teacher
everyone is
or
encouraged to
anybody,
apply.
you have to apply.
Right.
So, very good.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
No, great question.
Just making it clear.
So then on March 9th, you all board are gonna have to sift through and talk out and identify folks. And
Okay.
one option is you all get the applications, you all look them over the weekend, you come on March 9th, but your board chair maybe has some few identified to start that conversation. He's looked at those categories and those applications, and he's got a list of names of people that he would recommend, and then that kind of starts that conversation for the board, just to give you a starting point.
Okay.
I was gonna ask what the process might look like, because I could see it taking.
Right.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
it could take like 5 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
so Jonathan would have a
Yeah.
list of folks that he would choose, and that's your starting point for the conversation, but that doesn't mean
Sure,
that you're
right,
going to
right.
pick Jonathan's list of people.
Okay.
Right.
It just gets,
Starts that
kicks
conversation.
the ball
Yeah,
down the
right.
road.
Creates,
Yeah, so we
it
can-
creates a starting point.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Fair enough.
Sounds good.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. We've set the times, the dates, the location of the screening committee training, and we've talked about your potential makeup of the screening committee. The only other thing I have that's not on the agenda is at one point you guys had talked about marketing options, any additional marketing advertising you wanted to do with the position. And I didn't know if you wanted to revisit that.
I think that would be worthwhile
Okay.
to know
So,
what's available, yeah.
I know Greg's not here, but I've got what he had prepared to share with us a few meetings back. What I don't remember is if this was ever on board book, but the blue on this sheet is everywhere that we will automatically be advertising and marketing through. The non-blue highlighted are the options, and most of them have an additional fee that's not covered in the base fee for the search.
oh, okay.
Great.
Now, we feel very strongly that those non-blue highlighted options aren't necessarily necessary because we have such wonderful coverage through our direct email marketing and the other avenues that we advertise through. However, if you would like us to do the non-blue, then we will.
Two of those are free, right, that are not highlighted.
National Association of School Superintendents,
Yeah.
that's free.
And then the other one is AESA, the
Mhm.
Association of Education Service. I don't know.
NAS, the NASS, that's
Uh-huh.
free, should actually be highlighted blue because I do that. I
Okay.
cover it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So that is.
Sorry about that one.
And how about the AESA? Is that?
So he doesn't utilize it because he doesn't get much traction on it.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a high priority for him.
Oh,
people.
okay.
I'm going to hand out another diagram. This is a map of the United States that we have color coded for where our coverage areas are. The dark orange is Greg's direct email marketing, and the lighter blue is OSBA,
Okay.
and the dark blue is where we cover, where we both cover. So this is just kind of give you a visual of how far we go. And it's kind of hard to tell, but we do also cover New Jersey.
Why is there indicates no marketing coverage in Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona has been
Because it's
a
down here.
tricky one for us to, that's not covered by the direct email marketing. It is covered by the Arizona ESD superintendent.
Oh, I see.
But not by the direct email marketing.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm kind
The
of,
job posting will end up on national search boards.
Right. That's what Greg said.
Yep.
It just does.
Yeah.
There is no such
They
thing.
get
as
picked
a-
up everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, it
I
behooves
can
them
show
to
you a
carry
list
them.
Of the jobs in every state right now.
Right.
oh,
It's-
okay.
It's just, you don't even have to advertise. I mean, you don't have to even direct market it, because it'll just get picked up and it'll just spread through all the search engines.
That's what Greg said.
Yeah.
Either when he talked to us last or in a call that I had with him at one point. But I remember him saying the
Yeah.
same thing.
And I can tell you that we've had quite a lot of out-of-state interest in the other positions that we've been working so far this year. Now, we have time, so if you guys would like to ruminate on this and get back to me, there's time to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how, likely it is that you would attract someone from the East Coast. But it seems kind of strange to just sort of lop off that whole side of the country.
Yeah, so the East Coast tends to have a much higher salary range.
Oh, well, sure, that makes
than
sense.
us over here in Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there tends to not be much coming from over there unless they are already looking to move.
To relocate, yeah.
Yeah, well, the cost of living on the East Coast is 5 times higher as well than here. I mean, it's expensive here, but it's really expensive there.
Right, and
So
so,
they'll have higher salaries.
yeah, and so
So
it's
maybe, yeah.
it's not so much that we're completely disinterested in reaching out to those states. It's more that it hasn't had the time to focus on getting those connections. And based on the fact that we don't have many, if any candidates coming from there, the focus has been more on the west and the middle states.
As Paul said, anybody that's, in Virginia looking for work in Oregon is gonna see the listing anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
There's plenty of listservs to subscribe to,
Yeah.
and trust me.
All right. So,
So I'll only speak for myself. I don't feel a need to extend beyond. I think we're gonna get lots of interest regionally, generally anyway. I think that's where we're likely to get the interest. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
tend to trust Greg's advice from the beginning.
Yeah, it looks like you're casting a wide net. I'm
Thank
fine with this.
The map is very helpful, and the list is also very helpful. So thank you for
You're
providing
welcome.
this.
Yeah. And, it's hard to a layperson to look at the organizations on the right here and
Yes.
to even know,
yep.
who's, what they're doing and who's going to be effective and.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mexico. I don't know, I just see the National Alliance of Black School Educators and Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents over here that are extra. It's not a lot, but those jump out at me.
Just to
Significantly.
make sure that we really considered
Yeah,
diversity in our
just-
hiring.
Yeah, that's why I was looking over here at the direct email.
Yeah.
I'm just looking, we could just have a few minutes to look this over.
Right.
But, I think that a lot of the organizations on the very far left-hand side are, every state is K through 12 superintendents. I mean, is that only going to attract other superintendents, or, what if there's someone who is a assistant superintendent
Yeah.
who's interested in
Right.
becoming a superintendent?
Yes.
So I don't see, is that a part of
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yes.
I-
Also, those folks who are interested in becoming superintendents likely have already reached out
Right.
to him. And
Okay, great.
He's added them
Okay,
that way
great.
as well.
Okay.
Okay.
And the same with OSBA also has a list served where I send out our positions to every superintendent in Oregon, every assistant superintendent in Oregon, and anyone who's ever reached out to us and said, I want to get your job postings. So that's how those
Oh,
lists get
okay.
generated.
Okay, great.
Um,
Okay.
So in speaking to
The National Alliance of Black School
yes, but
Educators and
Diversity.
Latino.
the Latino one. We do
Mhm.
have OALA, Oregon Association of Latino Administrators, and that one we've had more traction with.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Specifically
great.
the Oregon one,
Okay.
and that one
That
is
would be
included
nice for
automatically.
us to
Okay.
stretch and
Great.
try that, I think it would be.
Okay. All right. Education Week.
So are we adding ALAS or NABS to this or not?
So I'm okay, I mean, I brought up ALAS and,
Yeah.
you know, I'm okay with OAL, you know, if that's representing,
Yes.
you know, so, okay, great. Is there another organization in the blue that represents the Black School of Educators?
Not to my personal knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
We can certainly reach out to Greg and ask.
okay.
I
Maybe
can
that
share
would be
I would
good.
like
Mhm.
to see that.
Yeah, let's do
And-
that. Let's just ask and see what his thoughts are.
Then we'll
Okay.
diversify
Well, and
better.
Greg did talk about, in their interview process, barriers to
Mhm.
underrepresented populations. And so that, you know, he's not here to answer our questions, but I think that that's something that he's attended to. So that makes me feel confident.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll reach out to Greg. I'll get
Great.
confirmation, clarification, if you will,
That'd be
on
great.
that, and I'll
Yeah.
get back to you all.
Okay, sounds
you.
good.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything else on the
Oh,
marketing?
that's great.
That's all I needed.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
that covers it for me, guys.
Excellent.
You
Thank
got
you, Sarah.
quite a lot done, and
Yeah.
not a lot of time, so good job.
Well, thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
concisely.
Facilitating that, yes,
Wonderful.
thank you.
So, as always, if any questions pop up, just let me know. Available, and I will see you guys when we train and go over applications.
Wow.
Right.
There we go.
So Debbie will
Fingers
be in touch soon on all that stuff, and we will get this job posted and open on the 27th.
Wow.
February.
Right.
Get it up there.
All right. Great job, guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a good rest of
Thank
your
you.
night. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for coming.
That was great.
Okay. With that, we are going to move into, come on, Bethany Charter School. Kathy?
Okay, hi there. Welcome. Thanks for having me come visit today. I have like a 6-hour presentation, but I was out at the door and thought I better narrow it down with your large agenda. So I'm here this evening to present our annual report. I wasn't quite, it was caught me off guard, so we have it hot off the press sent to Ms. Valoff. But I do have a soft copy for you to preview. And it's all just celebrations. That's all we do at Bethany, is celebrate. If we're not having fun, the children aren't having fun, it just does not work. So constantly chaos going on there. We're doing agriculture days. The staff look at me and what's up this week, Miss Frank? What are we gonna do this week? And then I promise them a solid week of just onward curriculum. Doesn't happen. So the booklet here in front of you is, whoops, I passed them all out. I'm gonna sit with you and just
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
we're
page
about to
through
get
it.
one to you. There you go.
Alrighty. The cover is right there, our mission statement, natural science, agriculture, curriculum enriched with PE, music, and the arts. So we participate in all of that. Our board this past year in 2018-19 came up with a new vision, kind of mission statement for Bethany, and it's been a challenge. It's based a lot on passion in our teaching style, transformative leadership where I'm out in there making things happen. The word innovation right there is our nonstop drive. It really is. You have to be an innovator and create. The education system is changing so much, so fast. So constantly we are looking at ways, podcast after podcast, trying to employ that into the environment. So this year, lots of things happen in the community piece. Habits, attitude with good habits is something that we're always working on. We're so test-driven in this day and age. By being test-driven, jamming stuff down kids' minds, and it doesn't work. I noticed our attendance went up this year. Whenever you have an exciting curriculum, an exciting drive at your school, your attendance automatically goes up. 24J every day, 24J. You take a look at that mission and it's like, it doesn't work. So our mission is to really kind of hammer up that the day-to-day experiences and practices, and it just molds and they come in. We tried a couple things this year. We take a lot of havoc. Well, we don't, I do, for being that kind of chaotic. Let's get together, make a community school. Whenever I see a mission like this, it entails huge amount of just really getting us on board. So the latest thing that really has crushed the student body is the community eating style. But it's come into such a beautiful place. They've finally gotten why they thought it was a consequence for chaotic. So we're always reviewing why. Why do we come together? We're going to practice this. We're going to be, if we make it somewhere in the farm bureau industry and have to go out to eat, we have to learn how to do those kind of practices on day to day. So any opportunity is just a learning life practice. In the booklet here, along with the mission statement, I'll just let you kind of glean that over. The board took some heat on that. They took some heat, which I don't think should have been, because this is what quality school will bring to the plate. School culture, rigor, relevance, teacher vision, student vision, they all go hand in hand. I'll let you read that. That's your packet. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. School-wide goals. So we took the vision this past year and made our school-wide goals to fit the board's vision, which was the social-emotional piece we're all dealing with. We went ahead. I'm always looking for free stuff. On a budget like Bethany, you gotta get free. Oh my gosh, it says free. So I'm even double booked this week. 2 staff members attending, 1 free training on, it's the Keegan style of positive classroom.
Yeah.
Yes, the fellow that sent, I double booked it, but I'm so excited because the philosophy of that class and bringing that to our whole school environment is unbelievable. So we did go ahead last year with the social emotional free Sanford style, and we took a look at that and put a goal in together there. Still working on that, that's nonstop. We wanted to take a look at the rigor relevance. We implemented STEAM's always in the program, but we went ahead and did a STEAM exploration night. That worked out well. We had to hire an electrician and get some power into the place to give it a potential to have food carts and just kind of make a family event out of that. We'll continue with that. So next, distinctive curriculum school offerings. I kind of bulleted out some exciting things for you to see that's going on. We have right down the aisle there. This year, I was pretty excited. We go for a lot of simple grants, small amount dollar grants, and then plug those in because I'm the grant writer there, and with that entitles a lot of time taken away from chaos, which I'd rather create within the building. But we do receive a couple, many of the smaller grants, MAPS, Selco, Fish and Wildlife. And this past year it was through Portland. They had a, quite nervous, can you tell tonight? How come? It's a new board and stuff. But they had a arts grant. So we were excited to put in orchestra this year.
Wow.
Nice.
And I tell you, it is beautiful. I've got a DVD, look at old school. I have a little flash drive for a video. I'll send it to Paul. Paul can send it all out to you. You can sit and watch it during your free time when you're contemplating what next to do. But it has the student body on there. And to me, that is what it's about. My kids went through the program at South High. Started early on. So to bring strings is just a whole nother mental practice for the kids, and they're come walking in, but now they're mad because they got to do 2 band or orchestra, one or the other. But small grants are our survival. They really are, and then we plug them into the mission statement. We'll be going to Minto Brown this spring And we sent a staff member to the angling classes to learn about how to bring in angling, fishing, the stream erosion. So that's another small grant that came through Fish and Wildlife. Okay, next. Extracurricular activities, many of the same that the K-8s all have out in the district. We've added though, we've got sewing club, we made some recycled garbage bags, try to sell those at our leadership. Once the bill passed that you couldn't have plastic bags, we added that. We had a trash and fashion show with some recycled just those kind of little after-school activities that give other kids a voice, other kids something to join and be a part of. Community activities.
Great.
This is pretty exciting. We still continue to do the Thanksgiving feast. We do a whole wide school Thanksgiving feast. We've got turkeys made from the Safeway. We used to have a family that made them, but they left us to head into town. But so Safeway will make them. We come together. We've got parents coming, helping put it together. The kids are performing. Just a lot of traditional things that you and I had growing up, I feel, are very important for experiences for the kids. They talk about it. A lot of our high school kids come back. Can we help serve at the feast, Ms. Frank? That type of thing. So giving them the traditional kind of home feel of coming back. School celebrations were small. This year our sports team was horrendous, but we tried hard. We were good sportsmanship. That makes it. So that you're not going to see any awards there. Although we did win the B team league. So we may purchase a banner for the B team league just
Absolutely.
yeah. So those things went on.
Okay.
Fair share, the beauty of Bethany is with the budget, we do fair share commitment contract. The parents have to commit to giving time to that round and help out. So there's a contract for enrollment there. I just recently, this is hot off the press, did a climate survey before yours. So all that havoc was coming in as we were trying to do our survey.
Sorry.
Yes, I will accept that apology because they call and be like, Ms. Frank, do we have to participate in this? And so that all got worked out, which is fine. But, this is hot off the press. I like to show it. I'm proud of it. We do have our faults. I take this survey now and I've read 3 or 4 comments that really do hit home. And there's something we can work on. I won't tell you what they are right now, but this is, we've got the public and they might be like, yeah, you better work on those. But so we do take it serious. Once a year, January, February, we do a climate survey, figure out what's going on, what people like, what they don't like, and then we put them into an improvement plan of some sort. Okay? Communication is one of our best strengths, which I am so excited about because past years it was not. We are communicating, getting it out there in the world of technology that has made it so much easier to communicate with your parents. Next is our school report card. I included that because again, it excites me. One thing that we always I thought about internally was, why are Bethany's math scores so low? And we could not get it worked out. But we purchased this new curriculum that has caused great chaos the first year because it was all new, all different verbiage, but it's K-8 lined, and we as a staff, especially the evaluator, will go into the classroom and watch the familiar language coming, and it's all problem-based, it's Common Core. It's been a tricky one to implement, but it's working. And that is where I get extremely excited, not that I'm curriculum driven, but math is one of those.
Wow.
You really need a curriculum that
Pretty
is
tense.
common.
great.
Is
Yeah.
that not great? I know.
Fantastic.
I was just tickled pink.
Congratulations.
Yes, tickled pink on that one, and we hope to continue it with it because we had a couple teachers that weren't really applying it. I said the first year you have to, word by word, page by page, for us to get together. And it was hard. I'll tell you, it's a hard curriculum to follow through. But as I go in now and see, you've got third graders doing algebra and talking the language. So good stuff out of that curriculum. Anyone that would like more information on that, it's a beauty. So, there's our report card, I included that, and I think that's it in the packet. Any questions on that? Oh, no, good heavens, some more important stuff here. So, I know you're gonna ask me when we go up for charter renewal, what's the $50,000 difference in our budget revenue?
Right.
Here it is, the very last page. We love our mortgage, we love our rent lease with the district, the $1 rent lease, but we're spending $50,000 plus to keep that building standing. So that's where the deficiency is in that category. You can see right now we're putting on a $30,000 roof, and that's with parent volunteer, and so this will be another 50. Constant money going into the building to keep it. And by the time we get one thing done, the next thing's ready to go. Okay?
That's expensive parking lot.
Yes, it is. But boy, no longer am I getting neighborhood phone calls
Yeah.
with some anger in them. It was a nightmare.
Well, the traffic flow now is just
Yes.
so good. you know,
Yes.
So much safer.
It really
for the
does
kids.
look
Yeah.
nice.
Right.
It's an investment.
It is. But boy, I tell you, you walk in there and it's cozy. Many of you, I thank you for coming by. This has been kind of a neat change for us because I think now the board knows that Bethany exists. In the past, we had one visit and it was to talk over a bond. So this has been really exciting. Even the staff are like, hey, what's up? Did you do something wrong this week? 'Cause that would be the reason I'd see someone usually, so. Yes, so thank you for stopping in and always.
Yes.
Oh, and I will get that to you because I know I can just see in their eyes, they can't wait to go home and watch that video. It's got the most peaceful music generated into it and you'll just smile because there's nothing better.
Yeah.
And who takes the
Yeah.
strings class?
We have 8 students, so it's 4th grade, because 4th grade is a pivotal point for getting them into the orchestra piece. It's a very hard, help me with that, very hard, it's hard. Orchestra is much harder than band and choir, so we've eliminated a half hour where students who have joined by choice are excused from any tests going on during that half hour. And that's where the innovation has to occur. We have to break down these walls and let kids move freely to what interests them more. So it's pretty cool. And I love seeing them get off the bus with their violin. There's just, I don't know. You don't know. You do not know in a public school if you have a professional speller. You know what I mean? So we do all these spelling bees. We do sports, battle of the books, all of this. And that's what makes a public school by offering, in my world, by offering everything possible to discover what talents they have and carry it on in their future life. So it's pretty neat. Our first our band was horrible. Our band did not perform that well this year because, but the orchestra, it was stone silent.
Oh.
Just beautiful performance. Beautiful. So,
Well done.
yeah. Good stuff there.
Well done.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So now we gotta decide if you're gonna renew us. That's what my staff's all worried about. They did prep me with this packet and, because they'll know I'll come in and just, so I'm all guided and directed. The packet next is the renewal. I think my buddy in crime comes up to help me. Yeah, right on. This thing's gonna help us get past. There you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Miles. And of course, my boss is sitting in the office. I'm like, oh,
Not your only demerit, but keep going.
I know, there are many. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process, if that's
Yeah,
okay?
Because this
And
is
then-
truly our first time.
Yeah,
I
going
have
through
done.
this,
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So I work at the Oregon School Boards Association, and I do a lot of board training. But my background, I spent about 10 years with charter schools. I was the director of the charter schools program at Portland Public Schools for 8 years, and during that time, I had 9 charter schools with about 2,000 students, so kind of like a medium-sized district in Oregon. And my whole job was to oversee, monitor, evaluate, renew charter schools. So when I got to OSBA, there was a real opportunity there to continue to serve districts in a training fashion, but also to help districts with some of these processes that are in statute, like receiving a new application, doing a renewal, evaluation, etc. And I do a lot of charter school board training, and then a lot of these processes for districts in their role as charter school authorizers. So I worked on your renewal for both of your charter schools, and you've gotten the renewal report. Mm-hmm. Both charter schools did a great job putting their applications together, which was really helpful to me. To go through the process just a little bit, so, and you may know all of this, some of it, none of it, but there's a charter school statute, and it's ORS 338, and a portion of that, ORS 338-065, governs renewal. So there are a number of statutory steps that you have to go through. So within 45 days of a renewal request, unless there's a different agreed upon timeline, you have to hold a public hearing, and that's where we are tonight. Okay. There is nothing that says what that public hearing has to entail. Sometimes it's like, hi, we're here, we're requesting renewal, and that's it. Sometimes it's, when I was at PPS, they were 3 hours. So I'm not saying I recommend that, I'm just saying that's how it goes. And then within 30 days of the hearing, you must vote to renew or non-renew, and that must be based on statutory criteria, which I'll go through in just a moment, and which my report is aligned to. So, and your vote is scheduled for the 9th, I believe, of March. So you're well within that 30-day timeline. In between tonight and the vote, I'm going to go visit both schools. And while they gave me a lot of documentation, and I've looked at all of that, I've aligned my review to the renewal criteria, the visit is just an opportunity to sit down with both Kathy and Miranda and just chat with them, to peek into classrooms. I'm not evaluating teachers, just becoming familiar with the program, to do those looks like, you know, are you keeping your student files in locked cabinets, those kinds of things. Is the roof caving in, which I literally saw at a charter school one time.
Oh, wow.
But only one. It's not gonna happen. And if there are any parents, board members, staff around just to check in with, I do that too. If there are any substantive changes to my renewal report, I would update you before you vote. That typically is not the case, but you will get any information from me that you need going forward before that. So the criteria that you will use to vote on, again, which my report is aligned to, is the charter school in compliance with all applicable laws, both state and federal, and any rules that apply? Is it in compliance with its contract, with its charter contract? Is it meeting, and this is a quote, meeting or working toward meeting the student performance goals and agreements specified in the charter? This is one of the weakest areas of statute, because who's not working toward meeting, right? So, so as we go forward, assuming if both charter schools are renewed, as we go forward into contract negotiation, I will likely have some suggestions for language in that area for clarity for both the charter school and the district. And then is the charter school fiscally stable, and has it used the sound financial management system described in its proposal, or using a sound financial management system? And then is it in compliance with any renewal criteria specified in the charter? I don't know of any charter school agreement that has renewal criteria in it. You can put renewal criteria in there, like by the time we renew, we want you to have accomplished this. So there may be an opportunity there if that's something you're interested in. Most districts don't know about this piece of the criteria. Neither charter school had anything in its for renewal criteria in the contract, so there's nothing to evaluate there. And just to be brief on this, the relationship between the district and the charter school. As the sponsor, the district does most of the groundwork here, right? I mean, I think the superintendent is usually the liaison to the charter school. In bigger districts, it might be somebody else. The board really gets involved at the pivotal points of renewal, like voting on whether or not to renew. It's nice to have a board-to-board relationship when you can. The fact that I hear that you've been out to visit these charter schools is wonderful because you're familiarizing yourself with their programs. Anytime that you can incorporate them into the work of the district, they are all your kids. And so the more familiar you can be with these programs, the better. So that's great, very heartening to hear that you've been out to see them. But the district's job is to oversee and monitor the contract, to ensure compliance, and to ensure that students are being served and the charter school is doing what it said it's going to do. And the school's job is really to do everything else. As an independent 501c3, each charter school gets to manage its own budget. It gets to do its hiring for the most part, unless you have a different arrangement. They teach, they adopt policy, etc. And so there is an independence for each charter school that, again, is governed by the contract to some extent. But you, the board, get to make those big decisions about whether it exists and whether it continues to exist as long as that's aligned with criteria. So that's just, I won't do this again before community roots because we won't need to hear it again. But that's in brief about the process and the guidelines around that process. Any questions about that? Okay.
I appreciate the
Yeah.
walkthrough.
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
honest.
no
That
problem,
was
no
really
problem. It can be confusing. There's a lot of where do we poke in and where do we not? Is this our business? Is it not?
Right.
In my experience, most charter school, now I can't speak for them, but in my experience, most charter schools want school boards to know about what they're doing because they believe in what they're doing and when they're doing good stuff, they want you to know that it's happening. However, they also do want to govern and manage themselves. Is that fair?
Correct.
That might be fair. So the relationship and communication is really important, and I get the sense that goes well here. So that's great. As far as Bethany and my report, you all have copies of my report. I will just say a few brief words because I tried to summarize things as best as possible. Everything that I have indicates that this charter school is in compliance with its contract and with law. I think I pointed out in the report that on the state report card, performance in both math and English language arts is well above state average and has increased since the previous year. Math performance increased by 17% and overall ELA performance increased by 7%. The disadvantaged students, it's hard to find subgroups that are measurable for both of these charter schools, right?
Small sample.
So the only reportable one was economically disadvantaged students. They also saw growth over the last year in English language arts and then a sharp increase in math. So that was great.
Excellent.
And I believe that group is one of the highest performing groups in the district as far as economically disadvantaged students. So one of the things that might be a good question for this charter school is, what are you doing? Now I know again that's a small n size, so the percentages can change rapidly. But if that continues its trajectory, I wonder, is there some intentionality around that? What is working well? That might be a nice moment to share. My big recommendations were for liability and governance purposes. For Bethany to adopt its own policies. It is very common for charter schools to defer to district policies when they don't have their own. However, as you probably saw in the report, the risk is ceding some of your authority to the district because all of the district's policies say superintendent, school board. And so our recommendation to all charter schools is
To refer to the district.
Oh, yeah. Because then the district ends up with liability it doesn't want, right? You don't want to handle things on behalf of the charter school, and they don't want to abdicate authority to you.
Right.
So my big recommendation would be policy work in this area. And then this is just something I can check with you on. There was a teacher I couldn't find in TSPC.
Yes.
And sometimes
Yeah.
there's a name thing. So,
I can get back to you. Did I fail to get back to you?
That's okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So just ensuring that all teachers are licensed just because I couldn't find this one teacher. But other than that, I mean, those were my big talking points for this.
Perfect.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to
No,
say about this report?
Yeah, it's still fun, and once it's, as long as it's still fun, it's, yeah, it really is. It's a great place, so,
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question about sort of the board reach that you were talking about in terms of roles. To what extent does the board set expectations for student achievement?
So a great opportunity to do that is in contract negotiations.
Okay.
And I will help you with that process as well. So my service goes from the beginning when they submitted their renewal application all the way through when the contract is settled. I am not an attorney, so I'm not doing the legal review for you, but I'm really familiar with the content of charter school applications and also updates that would be necessary based on changes in statute. One of the areas that I think in most charter schools in Oregon needs much more clarification in the contract is around performance expectations. I hesitate to get really specific as to like, you'll grow by 5 percentage points each year or you hit this target, because that, I mean, that's difficult to measure. But general expectations about growth is something that is a really nice area to collaborate on, because the school can say, here's what we're reaching for, and here's what may be aspirational, and here's what we really expect to hit. And working with the district collaboratively to set those expectations and then a system to monitor those allows a charter school to, say, look, we've committed to this, we're gonna hit the ground running here, and allows the district to say, and we know what to expect, and so do they. So I think that, I wouldn't say the more specific you can get, because we wouldn't want to say like 82% by this date, but when we are intentional about that section of the contract, it serves both parties well. So I think that'll be a really good area to hear about some of those innovative things that you're doing and how they are measuring them, because it might not all be state report card.
Right.
And then to set those expectations in the contract.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and if they're SMART goals, then you can make them measurable and they're realistic and everyone's on board. And yeah, but you're right, it's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
I like that. That's very good.
At its best, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right.
And I love the saying, there are kids all.
They are?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's
Yeah.
beautiful, right there.
Yeah.
I just have a question about the policy writing.
Yeah.
So would they contact OSBA to have you guys come out and help write their policies for them specific for their school?
We
And
have-
then would that come out of your budget?
So we have
Or
a
not.
specific charter school.
You never know.
I know.
We need to,
So,
it's just good to know.
our
Yeah,
policy
it is.
services department does have specific policies for charter schools, because there are
Oh,
different
nice.
required policies.
They are.
There aren't as many for charter schools, and different highly recommended ones, and optional ones. So our policy services department has very intentionally carved out like what is required for charter schools, where might the language be different. So I know it's less to do that for a charter school than it is for a district, but they would if they were interested in working with us and then getting those updates, which then just happen automatically.
Yeah.
I'm not like trying to sell you here, but it does make things easier at times, because as you know, we do all the tracking of legislation and the legal review and all of that. So yes, they could contact our policy services department. It typically comes out of a charter school's budget. That's not to say it has to if the district wanted to offer that to the charter school. So
It's just something to think about. I just have some creative ideas that maybe it wouldn't take away from your, curriculum or educational budget, so we just think about that.
And the beauty is when something comes up, and it's very seldom
Oh, yeah.
do we have to ever fall
Right.
back, but it's kind of a safety.
It is.
Insurance.
So, yeah, so
It
as soon
is.
as
Yeah.
something does come up, we
Right.
really look into it and see if it fits us.
Right.
So eventually, that should be, but you never know on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
You've
Right.
got so many changes going on.
You do.
Yeah.
Yep, so.
Okay.
So walk me through the contract negotiations that you just talked about. I mean, if we're voting theoretically in a couple of weeks, who's doing that work and when? I mean, I don't think There's none of us doing that work, it sounds like, so who's
No.
doing that work?
No, it's typically somebody on district staff that would do that. What my role would be in this, since you've hired me to do this, is that I will take a first look at it. I will say, here are the sections that I recommend updating, either, based on because the law has changed or whatever, and then go through the content. And here's where I would recommend updating for, I won't recommend specifics, like I'm thinking about the academic performance section, like I'm not gonna set targets for you, but here's where we might have, a conference between district folks and charter school folks to talk about that. So I try to do most of the legwork on that, for you. And then it's very common for me to come and, have a meeting with both parties, not to like negotiate on both parts, but to say, here's what we're putting forward and what do you think about that? And do a lot of the back and forth. Somebody will need to do a legal review in the end. And then, if there are one of the things that I really like about this renewal application is the charter school says, here's what we'd like to see in the next term of the contract too. So you've got that information that they are looking for these changes.
Right.
And, there are opportunities for those to be negotiated. I learned the hard way that not asking that board goes ahead and renews. I had a charter school once say, okay, board has renewed us, we want 200 more kids next year, and that was like, it was never on the table. Right. So it's good to know, you know what both charter schools are asking for, and I will do as much of that work as I can without making decisions on anybody's behalf, but making suggestions.
And some of them, or all of them, are in here, right? So that's pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
on
Yeah.
page 16, all right, great.
And what's the timeline for having the contract completed?
The contract, statute says the contract needs to be executed within 90 days after you vote on renewal. However, there is also a caveat in the law that says if you're not fully done and the contract is not executed by that time, the old contract stays in place until the new one is completed.
Nice.
So it's not
Back
like we hit our 90th day, they're no longer a charter school. And that does sometimes happen. It's not uncommon, but it's also fairly common to get done within 90 days. So
Okay,
So the charter renewal is really a big picture, high level, yes, we support the idea, and then the contract occurs after, is that what I'm
yes,
hearing? Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
The renewal is based on these criteria. Do they meet these criteria?
Right.
If yes, we're not thinking about the next contract period. Yes, you're right.
That was.
If
where I
yes,
was-
then they're renewed. Now we go into contract negotiations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
So as far as procedurally for the next item on our agenda is to conduct the hearing. Would you explain kind of what is typical for
Yeah.
a hearing?
There is no typical, which is the beauty of it. This could be the hearing. If you brought folks with you that wanted to speak on behalf of the school or express their support for the school, they can either do that, or you can ask folks, who's here in support. You can ask them questions on my report or on the report that you just got from Kathy. It can go any way you like it to. And again, her testimony could be the hearing. The presentation of that annual report, the fact that you've gotten my report, there's no specification in statute for what a hearing has to contain.
So I guess the way I've seen this done in the past is the board chair would say, okay, I'm going to declare the hearing open, ask for comment at that time, and that gives people the opportunity to weigh in support of or against.
Yep, either way.
And just to hear, and then when that's done, it's sort of like a public comment period, and then the board
Kinda.
chair closes the hearing, and we're done. And, go ahead.
I just had a question before we move into that section. Sorry. So on your report, you talk about in number 2 on academic performance. I think both reports have that academic performance piece. What does that mean? The number 2.
The using data from sources of data,
Yeah.
that section. So that is where I look at, this is state report card stuff, page 10, I think.
Okay.
And, if there are groups of students that can be reported, like many at the district level, you certainly would be able to break down students and disaggregate by race, by socioeconomic status, by special ed status, by ELL status. Many charter schools don't have enough students to report on those different
Yes,
groups.
yeah, I get
So this is where I'm looking at the state report card and the information within that to say, can we break down reading by race, ethnicity, reading by special population, math by those pieces. So then I'm looking at trends. We look at the information and performance school-wide, and then we look at whatever subgroups are reportable. That's what that number 2 means.
So you're just ensuring to us that you have done your due diligence and looked at all of these. You're not reporting out on every single category.
Correct.
Okay.
And with this school and with Community Roots too, the only reportable category that shows up is socioeconomic or
Got it.
economically
Yeah.
disadvantaged students. So had there been reportable information by race or other or special ed, I would have reported those as well.
Got it.
Or just at least given you a picture of the trends.
Thank you. Sorry to have to go back.
Oh,
Go
no,
to
that's
hearing
fine.
It's okay. We're good.
Okay, well, given that, and the idea of moving us forward, I think we will enter into the renewal hearing phase of the board meeting tonight. I guess at that point, we can open it up to public comment, as I'm understanding it, as well as additional commentary from you, or any additional discussion among the board, I guess.
I have a question, so unless someone's jumping up behind me. And I understand this has more to do related with the contract negotiation, so we don't need to get into the weeds on it, but you do talk about, you do make reference to special ed services. And I wondered if you could speak to how you provide those services to students and whether there's any other information around how you're doing with regard to special ed.
Yes, that is district provided, so
Okay,
that's
right.
within the 20%. So we really, other interventions all the time along with the district provided special ed.
Okay,
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Anybody in the public want to address the board tonight regarding this?
This could be easy.
I liked one of your comments earlier about attendance. I noted that you did hit the 95 mark, it appears, which is pretty good.
Wow.
That's outstanding.
They
So,
do want to be there.
that
Except
does
eighth
say
graders,
something.
they're getting ready. Taxes. They're just ready.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are, but the majority,
Right.
it's, yeah.
No, it's just a comment, because I noted that, and how hard the schools try to hit those numbers, so
Yeah.
it's not easy.
I'll just say thank you for your work and your leadership. Enjoy working with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it is fun. Yeah, okay,
Great.
well, perfect.
Thank you. Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
You need to close the,
Always available if you have questions.
okay.
Yes.
With that, we will
Send
close
that
the.
video.
I will.
Now we're
I know, I will.
We raised all our expectations.
Yeah.
Okay, we are closing the renewal hearing portion for Bethany Charter School.
Very nice.
And now we're going to get our presentation from Community Roots.
We'll come back when we're in this.
Thank you so much for having us this evening. We didn't have a choice, but I appreciate you having us this evening for this. So for our annual report, I just kind of wanted to highlight a few things in it, and so it's, there we go. So one thing to highlight about last year, which was pretty phenomenal, we had our first year with 8th graders and we had our first 8th grade graduation. So we have kind of completed a dream of being a K-8 school, a thriving K-8 school, and so that was pretty phenomenal. And we turned 10 years old last year, so it was kind of a pretty phenomenal year for us. Celebrated a number of our founding families that kind of graduated out that had made sure that we were kind of staying on par, but it was, yeah, it was a big year. It was pretty fantastic. It was awesome. A big thing that came into our world last year was we received a Department of Ed grant for expansion into a middle school program. So with that was some substantial funds, and with that we've been able to do some pretty amazing and fantastic things with the school. So what I want to start off with, what kind of was highlighted a little bit earlier, is that we get to kind of talk a little bit about what our program is in hopes that maybe some of the stuff that we're doing at some point may filter out, right, into, that's kind of the purpose of the charter, right, is to show a process. So through this grant, we've been able to have a Montessori consultant kind of come in and do kind of an audit of our school. And the focus of that was that part of our mission statement says that we are going to be an authentic Montessori school. So what is it that we can do to make sure that we're making that happen? And so through the course of that, this is human flourishing became the theme that kind of came out of it all. So I'm just going to read something. NCMPS, which is the National Center for Montessori in the Public Sector, they are a national organization supporting Montessori public schools all over, and there's a ton of us. It's amazing. I didn't know how many of us there are. And this organization is supporting the really kind of rigorous work that happens in a public Montessori school. So I'm just going to read this quote really quick. It says, at NCMPS, our work is grounded in the premise that human flourishing, rather than achievement, as defined by standardized tests, should be the goal of education. By human flourishing, we mean the capacity to thrive socially, emotionally, intellectually, and economically, to participate meaningfully in family, community, and civic life, and to live a life of curiosity, agency, and satisfaction. So on some level, that is the core of what Montessori is and what it is that we are trying to achieve within all of that. So that has kind of been our kind of grounding principle for the last year and this current school year. So at the end of the year, a gentleman named Seth Webb came out and did a classroom observation, sat down and just did a really in-depth look at our program, met with parents, had focus groups. I mean, it was pretty amazing and in-depth process, and then created a report for us. And with that, gave us some amazing recommendations of what we can do to improve the school. And so with this amazing grant that we got, we had this opportunity to kind of do this really transformational work at Community Roots this year and last year. So we've created a leadership team, and that leadership team is kind of rolling out a lot of these new processes and procedures that we have going on. But one of the things that has really come out of it is that every single staff member has a coach, including myself. That is part of the Montessori principle, is that they're observed on a weekly basis, and then they're provided feedback on a weekly basis, including myself, which has really been this amazing, wonderful journey for myself as well. We've incorporated a new thing called child study, and so what we're doing is we're able to really go in depth and look at a child's academic, social, emotional, executive functioning, variety of things, and spend time. So we have early releases now every single Monday, which has been phenomenal for our school. So staff get to sit down and get to sit and talk about kids, and they're meeting their needs, setting SMART goals, and making sure that all of our kids are on the right track academically, socially, emotionally, variety of different things. So we've been able to incorporate child study into our Monday practices. And then the other pretty amazing and wonderful thing that we've been able to bring in is that we have they call it a skills inventory in Montessori. So our Montessori classrooms are multi-age. We have a standalone kindergarten, which I say if Maria Montessori knew that, she'd be rolling in her grave right now. But it's not meant to be a standalone kindergarten, but that's what we do because of the public element. So we have these benchmarks. They're called skills inventory, but we call them benchmarks. So when they leave kindergarten, they should have this to be able to be successful into the next space. And by the time they leave third grade, they leave sixth grade, and then they leave eighth grade. These are the skills that they need. Now, one of the things that NCMPS is really adamant on is that if we teach the Montessori curriculum with fidelity, that Common Core is taken care of in the process. So the goal for this past year has been fidelity of Montessori program. And so we have lesson studies that we are doing. We have lots of PLC time where we're sitting and incorporating all of that. So it's been a pretty amazing, it's been a transformative year actually. It's been pretty amazing. Tired staff need lots of chocolate and TLC. They're just working really, really hard. We are creating a strategic plan based on those recommendations, and the wonderful thing about this is the strategic plan has been 100% staff run. So it's not a top-down, it's kind of from within, you know, what can we do with that, and then obviously will be presented to the board and they'll have their input on that. But our strategic plan, we're in our final phases right now with that process. I feel like I put a bunch of wonderful stuff down. We have the wonderful opportunity of working with Buffalo Consulting. John Lenson is an equity person, and he has partnered us with Christine Moses, and she has in the process of supporting our equity work at Community Roots. So we have, it's pretty amazing, it's phenomenal. So we have a book study that we're going through, which, you know, I find everybody needs to be doing book studies surrounding this work. We have parent and staff surveys that have gone out, and the next one is going to be our student survey. And so the idea behind it is not only to create an environment where staff and parents, but obviously where the kids feel 100% safe and that they can thrive in this learning environment. We're also, she's supporting our work with looking at our curriculum. So we're in Maria Montessori. Sometimes her work is 100 years old, right? And so can we look at her work and make sure that it's culturally sensitive? And so we're doing a lot of that work. We have brand new progress reports, and although they still report out on math and reading and writing, they're focusing on our social emotional, there's executive functioning, and they're doing critical thinking and reasoning. And so all of those things are actually the core and the fundamental piece of Montessori. And so she's taking a look at all of those and making sure that we are making sure that we have an equity lens with those things that are coming out. So it's been really interesting for us to go through that process of really evaluating our work through an equity lens. Absolutely important and essential work. We've got band and music this year, which is awesome. We're very excited about being able to do that. We have a native plant garden. We planted an orchard this year, so we're going to be able to I'm so excited. Alyssa is our person who helps with our garden. She's been asked to be on the garden tour for Silverton this year, so I'm really excited. We've been working really hard. It's phenomenal, those kids. And yeah, I think if there's any other big thing. Consistency of practice has been another big thing, just making sure that we have those pieces in play. So, yeah. Any questions?
And you're able to, your middle school, are you able to accommodate that where you are, or do you need to be in a different campus?
Right, so we are partnering with Gearcrest.
Okay.
And so we have the kids going out 2 weeks every month for just the mornings. They just had baby goats born today, and so the kids are going to get to go and hang out with the goats tomorrow, which is kind of exciting.
Cool. Yeah.
So we're part-time in town and then part-time out at Gearcrest.
All right, that's great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've got kids for the first time that graduated, you said 8th grade, they're in high school now.
Yes.
Are you tracking anything? Do you know how they're doing when they get to high school?
Yeah, so in the process of trying to get ready for, because one of the things that comes up is our math scores, and so I was very curious to kind of see where our kids are doing and where they're at, and so I've done a check-in with the kiddos that are there, and I'm thrilled to say that my report back is that they're doing really well, which is very exciting for me to be able to get that. What I can tell you is that part of our NCMPS kind of assessment data is an alumni survey. And so the idea behind it is that it will be put into implementation so that we can actually not only get the feedback from the kids, but then also have them come back and talk about their experiences and then prepare the next group of kids that have come through. So it was our very first group, right? You know, I think it's we transitioned kids into the middle school before, but that feels like a little bit more of a gentler kind of movement in, and I think they're doing well. I'm sure that they are, you know, it was a bit of a shock to come into that space, but in math, they're doing well. So that was what I was checking in on.
And I imagine you have theories and some understanding of why the scores are the way they are and are trying to kind of put in place how to.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting and tricky journey throughout the scope of Community Roots, actually, with the processes. We're always trying to look at and improve. The thing about Montessori is that a lot of the math work is concrete, and so they're using Montessori math materials, and that concrete work usually goes through 5th grade sometimes. So I should have brought it, but there's this Montessori work that's called a checkerboard, and it sounds like they're playing games, but they're learning multiplication. And so it's a big mat, and it does look like it's checkerboards, and they pull beads out and they will put them on the mat, and from there they are able to do their math problem. I had a 4th grade student take the SBAC, and what they did is they drew out the checkerboard to be able to solve the problem. And so it's one of those things that, as we're looking at assessments, is the SBAC an accurate reflection of whether or not our students can be successful with math. And so that would just be something that would need to kind of come into play as we're moving into that. So our STAR is an assessment that the district utilizes, and so we partner and try to utilize that as well. And as a staff, we took a filter of Common Core and just kind of looked at where our kids are at in January with our scores. And we sat down and looked at where the holes are, and then getting with the Montessori philosophy, making sure that when we have a online program called Transparent Classroom where we track all of our Montessori, and it is linked to the Common Core, so they can pull up the Common Core and they can look at what lessons need to be provided, and so that instruction. So we've been pretty game on for the last couple of weeks with math instruction, so that's kind of how we're trying to kind of fill within that. We don't do a ton of SBAC prep, and I think that if we are needing to kind of create that performance element, then we may need to shift a little bit about that.
So it may have as much to do with assessment as anything else in terms of whether it's an appropriate fit to the way the curriculum is presented and taught.
Exactly. And we have, especially with this new stuff that's being rolled out with those benchmarks and the inventories, because for us it's about pacing, right? We have the kids in a classroom for a 3-year cycle, and we're just really trying to follow the needs of those individual children, is kind of creating that portfolio accountability system for that. And those would be the measures that I feel like would be the marks. Are we making sure that by the time they leave 3rd grade that they've got the math skill set to be able to move on to the next one?
And that's a new system.
It is.
It is. So that'll be really exciting to see how that.
We're very excited. I could not believe it. I walked around. I said, "This is my new Bible." And I just kind of went like this. And I couldn't believe it. So
it must be so helpful.
It is. It's powerful. It gives direction, and it's amazing.
That's good. And it's made for you guys, and it's developed for you. So that's going to make a big difference.
A huge
that's
difference.
exciting.
I agree.
Have you guys received your audit yet?
Oh, yes. I will send that to you. Shoot, yeah. When we made these back in November, October.
Shelley loves a good audit.
I love good
audits. I'll send you all the audits.
I love reading them. It's very weird.
That's awesome. No, I love budgets.
Bizarre.
So I do. I love budgets. So. But yes, I will.
Well, thank you for this. This is excellent.
No problem.
Very nice.
Sounds like. So at this point, are you planning to present as well?
I'll just say a couple of things. I mean, I don't have to do the big intro again.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have to introduce myself again.
But your summary is helpful.
Just a couple of things, and as Miranda was talking, it gave me a couple of ideas too. So sometimes, as you noted, one of my big recommendations in here is about math and about developing an improvement plan for math that may include professional development, whatever. But I will say that sometimes, as Miranda pointed out, the SBAC is, no school lives and dies on state testing, right? I mean, no one wants to be defined by state testing. Right. That is the public measure, and there are targets that we all have to hit. However, as I have always said to charter schools, if there are other ways that you measure success, how do you know how well you're doing? Make sure that the district knows that as well. So sometimes it's a growth measure, right? Sometimes it's MAP or something like that. And in your case, it's STAR. if there are other ways to measure or other expectations, the district can consider this as well, especially as we look at performance expectations in the contract. I've worked with Waldorf model schools who do not expect students to hit performance targets as defined by the state in 3rd or 4th grade, but they expect this growth curve so that by the time they hit 8th grade, they are performing well above district students. That's their expectation, at least in the Waldorf models that I have worked with. And so they build their expectations into the contract based on this is our expected growth curve, you know, like particularly in reading, because they don't teach discrete reading skills until about 2nd grade. So considering the model, is there an expectation that at some point the Montessori model starts to outperform? And if so, that's worthy of consideration in contract negotiations when we're looking at long-term and looking at performance expectations. So just thinking of other ways to get at, you know, are students gaining the skills that they need? There may be other ways to do that and set those expectations as well. I will say, Miranda provided a great deal of information. It was really fascinating to, no, in a good way. No, in a good way. There's not one word I don't read out of everything that everybody sends me. It was great to read that NCMPS report. My other recommendation, and I know that you're doing this anyway, is because that has, you know, the lens on it that the Montessori public school lens on it, that in those areas where they specify needing improvement, you already said that you're building a strategic plan on that, because that was my other recommendation, was to, you know, build a plan around that. So I think that's great, and I'll just say, as you can see from my report, that the school appears to be in compliance as well, and I really look forward to visiting and, you know, seeing everything that's going on out there. So that's all I will
So as
add.
you develop sort of your kind of contract recommendations, will you work with Miranda to make sure that they are suited well to something that you feel like, before it comes to us, that something that you feel like you can actually measure and achieve? Will you do that work ahead of time, or do we do all?
Well,
I think we talked about that a little bit
typically,
before,
you know, when it comes to particularly the performance expectations section, I don't necessarily make recommendations, but I will say this, you know, we might need a meeting or something. I mean, not with the board, but like, you know, with districts, and say like, this is something I would recommend that you flesh out. And that would be highly dependent on what the district expects and what the school, you know, is like, and here's where we can show this. Having high expectations is good for all, and they should be realistic and reasonably attainable as well. So I won't say like, I think you should measure growth on MAP, unless that's something you're already using, or, you know, or something like that. But I can help you once a tool and a measure has been determined and everybody comes to agreement on the concept, I can help you find language to flesh that out in the contract. So that kind of thing I would step back on, but make sure that you get it into the contract in a way that is collaborative and is workable for everybody.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All I have for that.
Anything else for either of these two before I open it up to the official hearing portion?
I just have one more quick question.
I love that.
The ODE report card that is given. So is this, you know, the Montessori philosophy and teaching, is that, you know, a square peg trying to fit into a round hole? You know what I mean?
What do you think?
So my point is, does the ODE report card allow for this, you know, different kind of teaching that happens?
So what I did is I pulled the ODE report card for the other public Montessori schools, and they're very like, it's not in this, but it's very, very similar to what our story is. And so it's
That would be interesting to see.
there was one there where the math kind of was a little bit higher within that, but it is, I think it's a public Montessori dilemma within it. But again, I've got this amazing person that's on contract, Seth, that I can communicate with and talk through about what some measures and what he's seen out there that could work within that as well. So I can come with a recommendation.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Just because I happen to have noticed it on the other report card, but there was a striking difference between regular attendees as well. Is there any particular reason that would be so different at one school versus another charter school? versus any other school, really. I mean, it's pretty low, actually.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Well, we have not, as a collective, taken on a stance of you need to get to school. So there's not been a kind of a collective message surrounding that. We have a number of families that travel out of the country and are gone for some chunks of time. And, you know, for ourselves, that's pretty amazing learning that's
Sure.
happening and that's going on. And so I know that there's a direct relationship between the, educational days and the academic performance pieces. And I would go back to the concept of Montessori as a whole child, and you know, what are they going to gain from that? So I think that it could warrant taking a look at and having our board kind of talk about those pieces a little bit more. But it just hasn't had a lot of weight.
Well, I was
within
just
our
curious
community.
mostly. I mean, I could
Yeah.
see that maybe somebody predisposed to sending their child to a Montessori school might be somebody who has a different attitude towards the value of being in class every day. Right? I don't know, you know.
Yes.
Well,
I
but
can see
also,
that.
but also there's an aspect of that the Montessori philosophy to a certain degree is you learn outside of the classroom
That's
quite a
what I'm
bit.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so that's why the ODE report card,
Right.
it's kind of like, you know,
Right.
trying to fit a square peg in a round hole because they're always out and not in the classroom in their seat like a public school. So, and that's how it was at some private schools that I know about. So it's kind of a double-edged sword to a
It
certain
is,
degree.
it is.
Yeah, and so those numbers, when I was looking at it, I'm like, well, you know, for them to move on to our public high school, we need numbers to be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we also like to have a different way of having an amazing Montessori school in our district, which I can't believe we have. That's pretty cool. To allow students to have a choice of where they can attend school too, if they need something different. So that's, I mean, it's kind of this whole.
Yeah, I think
Well,
tracking progress and graduation rates and things like that at the high school level will be important. We're not really there yet, but I think that will be an
Right.
important factor.
But
Oh, and
yeah,
I think last year we
Yeah.
had our first graduating class.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of a
Yeah.
big pivotal point. So we can start tracking
Right.
graduation
yeah, you
now.
can start.
Right.
Yeah, getting numbers. Yeah, so it'll be good.
Yes.
It'll
that's a
work
good
out.
point.
Well, I
Thank
really
you.
appreciated hearing the philosophical, approach and directives that you take too. I find that really enriching, and I really appreciate what you've shared. Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I love sharing it. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to open this up to the hearing portion. And so officially, we are going to enter the renewal hearing portion for Community Roots. And at this point, if anybody in the audience would like to share anything, that would be the time. Sure.
Hi, my name is Jennifer DeYoung, and I am the current secretary of the board and a founder, so this will be my subjective opinion. But I want to share that I actually have 3, I think, flourishing humans from Community Roots. Oh gosh.
Sorry.
I don't want to do that. It's been a long journey. But I'm now with one at OSU as a freshman. I'm reflecting on how they're different because of Community Roots. And I don't know. They could have been the same anywhere. But there are some things that are subtle and then not so subtle that my girls went through at Community Roots. And for just one example is the mixed classrooms, right? So the fact that, a first grader will come into a classroom and then they have these third graders that they look up to. And it's just this progression. And in any school, there's the older kids that kids look up to, but just this very intentional model of you come in and you look up to these models of children, and then at some point you get to be the leader in the model, like what that does to their social and emotional beings and their executive functioning, the things that Miranda was talking about. So anyhow, it's just a really interesting place to be 10 years later and looking back at that. And I know some of you share that experience with me. And Savannah just got an A in calculus at OSU, so I think we're okay. She's my freshman. Really pleased with that. And then I also just want to say, I know when we first started, we talked a lot about how excited it would be to share what we're doing in community roots with the other schools. I don't know that we've ever actually fully done that. And so what are those subtle things that we're doing in community roots that maybe others would want to know about? So I would just encourage the board, if there's ways, there must be some educators out there studying these things that are really very different in the Montessori philosophy and how they are working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
It's
All
okay.
good.
Thank you. It's welcome.
Any other comments?
On behalf of the district, thank you very much for your leadership. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed
Thank
working
you,
with
Miranda.
Thank you. It's been fun working with you.
Okay, we're going to close the renewal hearing portion. Okay.
Awesome,
Thank
thank you
you.
so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, next up,
See you on the fifth.
student,
No, that's it, yeah.
okay,
Yes, this
student
is-
investment account.
I'm looking forward to this. So tonight, we're going to have Director Hannon who's going to walk us through a PowerPoint presentation to give us a chance to hear a lot of amazing ideas that are all focused on kids. And I just want to take a quick moment here and acknowledge that this is a time for us to be squarely thinking about kids first. This is not a time where we're considering our own comfort or discomfort with change or anything else. It's about what can we do as the adults to remove barriers for students, to help them be flourishing humans. I really like that. I'm going to use that.
Yes.
So with that, we will be going through this presentation tonight. At the end, we'll sort of open up for some questions, and then that will begin sort of an open feedback session that will continue. Of course, after the meeting adjourns, we'll be taking questions and feedback via email for some time. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Director Hannon. Thank you for your leadership in helping put this plan together and getting a lot of great ideas from a ton of people over a long time and assembling that into a very coherent plan. So with that, Director Hannon.
Thank you. And I want to mention we have several educators, principals, mental health, alternative ed, student support advocates in the audience. So hopefully, as we have questions, since it's a work session, a little bit less formal, they can feel free to share as well. So we're talking student investment account, and again, the goals for this money are to meet the behavioral and mental health needs of students and to reduce academic achievement disparities for focal groups. And I had a great question today about what do we, when we say mental health, what does that mean? So I pulled, in the law, they pulled the Oregon Health Authority definition of mental health.
Okay.
Here it is. A state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. That is the Oregon Health Authority definition of mental health, and therefore ODE's definition of mental health. So, and I did get some questions in advance, which is great, so I'm going to try and address those as I move through so that they're addressed in a more authentic way. But if I miss any, when we get to the questions portion, I'll make sure I hit them. So as you know, this is a continuous engagement process. So we have gotten some feedback recently from both community and staff about how much engagement we're doing, and they would maybe like a break from engagement. But this is designed to be a continuous improvement process, so the engagement will continue. So where we started last year was 13 focus groups, 118 written responses, 359 survey responses, and then 6 meetings of 26 committee members over 4 hours. We followed that up this year with our specific focus group engagement that's required in the Student Success Act with Students with Disabilities Survey. The staff serving at-risk populations got to participate in an additional focus group, the Spanish-speaking family nights, the ELD, and student engagements that happened at our high school. And then in terms of gathering information from our students experiencing poverty, we relied entirely really on our partner organization with Sheltering Silverton and our staff that works with at-risk populations, so our mental health and alternative ed staff. And remember, that's because identities are protected for students experiencing poverty. You can't sort them through data in any way or identify them to participate in their own focus groups, so you do have to rely on some other agencies to help with that. And then we had additional layers of staff engagement just a few weeks ago with K-8 PLC discussions. The high school still has an open survey with the ODE specific feedback form, and then classified staff are working through the same ODE engagement feedback, and how that looks varies by building. Some of them are doing them together in a staff meeting, and some are filling them out individually and some online. We have just completed Youth Truth, but we don't have any results yet. I'm like to look at it as soon as possible. So that's all K-12, no, that's an error. It's 3rd through 12th grade students, all staff except administrators K-12, and all parents of K-12 students. And then, of course, our equity team, which is made up of our equity consultant, teachers, classified staff, admin, and community members. But again, this is not done. It has to be ongoing. So these groups will continue to meet throughout I don't see an end to that. As long as there's SIA money, which hopefully is forever, this engagement will continue. So just a reminder, the allowable spending areas, there are 4. Class size reduction, increasing instructional time, health and safety, and well-rounded education. Those are the 4 allowable spendings. You have to spend for the purpose of meeting the behavioral and mental health needs of students and reducing academic disparities for the focal group students. Those focal group students include students of color, emerging bilingual, students with disabilities, students experiencing poverty, homelessness, and foster care, and then other traditionally underserved students. And this is all designed to create equity in our education system so that it works to level the playing field for all kids. So educators, the pop quiz, who are other underserved students in this district? Tag, yeah. Unfortunately, our tag kids are the only subgroup that we have that we underperform the state average in. So we know that we have work to do. So the themes that have emerged for us in this engagement process are, number 1, with all of the populations, has been behavior and mental health. Academic supports, including out-of-school factors. That's the biggest frustration I feel like I hear from teachers, is the out-of-school factors that they don't have any control over that are impacting their ability to be successful with kids in a classroom. Materials, space, and appropriate space that works to do the kinds of programs that they need to do with kids. And then high-quality, well-trained help. We have high turnover in our classified staff. We have struggled with great training for our classified staff, so that's been a bit of a struggle. And there's never enough, right? It's never enough. Facilities and space was a theme that emerged. Family supports, including communications, translation services, and navigation services. And by navigation services, we mean how do families who are new to Silverton, much less new to Silverton and don't speak our language, how do they navigate our school system and the community supports that they need? Our school system is a very complex system. I mean, just our high school is a small city, right? It takes some help navigating for those families. And then access to opportunities, including, the challenges we face with access to opportunities around transportation, are different configurations, different technologies, and different schedules. Like trying to coordinate all of that to provide opportunities for kids for that's a challenge. So the outcomes that we decided are our priority outcomes in this district. These come straight out of our strategic visioning plan, and they are each student is on track to graduate every year. That speaks to the academic progress we want to see for every kid. And then each student has the social emotional learning skills to navigate their world. That speaks to all of the behavioral and mental health. So the activities, how are we going to spend the money? These are the activities. So we'll go through them one by one. First, this has been a discussion for, I don't know, maybe as long as I've been here. The K-5 Ela Curriculum is maybe 20-ish years old. Curriculum's come a long way since that curriculum was developed.
ELA is?
English Language Arts. But, so kids learning to read and write, and specifically we're targeting our 3rd grade reading scores for our ELD, poverty, race, and disability kiddos. So we've got teachers teaching in a tier 1 with outdated materials, and then we've got specialists pulling kids who are struggling out of that classroom and hitting them with a completely different kind of material. This is not a good way to go. And then our 3rd grade reading scores certainly reflect that, and there's disparate results for all of these groups in our 3rd grade reading. So we're hopeful that with a really great comprehensive curriculum that's got all the right tools for our teachers to use and the appropriate training and how to use it, that we will move that 3rd grade reading for all of those kids.
Can I interrupt it for a
Yeah.
second? So what makes this piece fit the criteria instead of just coming out of the general fund? Because it sounds to me like this is something we would need to do anyway.
Right. Yeah, that we wouldn't do it. I mean, unfortunately, like I would say prior to, I mean, there's a reason we have a 20-some-year-old curriculum, because it's a $500,000 purchase. And we don't have that money in our general fund, which is why, year to year when you make your budgeting decisions, you decide, I mean, has been the equivalent of 5 teachers. So the decisions have been made, I think, over and over in this district of do we buy new stuff, or do we keep great teachers in front of kids? That's the discussion I feel like has happened for 20 years, and this is an opportunity to do both.
Well, it seems to me like, especially the stories can certainly be updated in terms of making more inclusive, kinds of stories that can be more culturally relevant. But the phonics piece may also really help eliminate disparities, just because it's hopefully will just be good for everybody.
Right. Right. They're looking at a strong vocabulary, strong phonics, a strong writing component, and pieces that are not divergent from the curriculum they're using in a tier 1 system. So they want to do a curriculum in their classroom that when kids get pulled out for their ELD classes, English Language Development classes, that it's the same curriculum but the ELD component. And if kids are getting double dosed in phonics, or they're struggling with learning to read because they have learning disabilities like dyslexia or ocular or learning disability for reading, that it would be a consistent program, an extension of the same program, not flipping them into a completely different program. So we're hoping that it really helps with those focal groups, but you're right, it should help all kids. But we do have quite a difference in where our kids are performing in 3rd grade reading. I would say from our disparate data, that's 3rd grade reading is our biggest one. Which is not unusual with, especially with your ELD population.
So that's really an appropriate use because of the disparate outcomes that we have.
And wasn't this an overwhelmingly supported idea for teachers?
Well, I don't think the high school staff necessarily cares, but the elementary staff has been saying for years that.
Where they come in.
Good point, thank you.
They're in. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Additional behavior and mental health support staff. So we're hoping to increase mental and behavioral health and attendance with this one. And we're looking specifically at our students with disability, students of different races, students experiencing poverty, and our other unrepresented, underserved groups. So we're looking at adding additional licensed staff in the form of 1 school psychologist and 4 mental health providers. And we've listed that as school counselors, therapists, so licensed professional counselors, LPCs, or licensed clinical social workers. Our postings are for all, because like Ben's hiring 100 and Salem's hiring 50, so everybody is trying to do the same thing. So we'll take who we can get. We'll get the best candidates and we'll plug them in accordingly.
I have one question, What is the, I hate to use case load, but what is the student ratio to our counseling currently, or?
It's currently district-wide averaged out about 1 to 350, and
Oh.
it's recommended to be 1 to 250.
Yes.
So this will bring us closer to compliant on counselors. It doesn't get us close on school psych. We're not even close to there, but we'll be closer.
Okay,
It's 1 to 400 for school psych.
right.
But we do
Right.
use our school psychologist a little bit differently than other districts do. We have her working almost exclusively with assessment testing, diagnosis with special ed. And so
Okay.
in a typical school psychologist setting, they would also be doing direct service with kids. We have our counselors and behavior specialists doing that work. So we can get away with a little bit higher numbers, but we want to get closer at least.
Yeah, because they're currently carrying an additional 100 over the 250, correct? I think?
The counselors are, yeah.
Yeah, the
But our
counselors.
school psychologist
Right.
has like 40.
Oh, I see.
4,000.
Okay, okay.
But her responsibilities are a little bit different than a typical school psychologist.
Oh, very good.
So is
Okay.
that recommended 250, that's coming out of the quality ed model, correct?
Yeah.
So
Quality
there's-
education model, yeah.
Yeah.
250 to 1.
Which is some of the intent of the legislation is to bring us closer to the quality ed model. So
Right.
that's really, I'm really pleased to see that.
That's good information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're looking to create a therapeutic education opportunity. And with this, we're looking to hit graduation, attendance, and mental health for poverty, mental health, and talented and gifted. We were just discussing this morning that we would love it if our ESD or some regional organization would create this for all of the districts, but that has not yet happened. And for us, this is our gap. These are the kids that we can't get through. So we will create it. But we have had several other districts also dedicate money towards this plan, so it will be regional, not just our kids. It would be at least a few other districts will be sending their kids our way. So this will be a partnership with other regional districts, Department of Human Services, Marion County Health, Oregon Health Authority, Medicaid, Student Success, and High School Success Dollars will come together to create this. And this will be a placement that will look similar to a day treatment center, specific to trauma.
Yeah.
What grade levels?
We're going to start with grades 7 to 12 with the understanding that when you're dealing with some of these extreme cases, a 10-year-old might look like a typical 7th grader. So, I mean, it will be flexible, but we're going to start with the big kids because we're targeting that graduation. Like, we know every year we're having kids not graduate who our high school staff would say this would have made the difference for. If they had had this, they would have been able to graduate. So we're going to start with the big kids. And, you know, the dream would be within 5 years, we would be K-12, but we were starting with the big ones because we know we're losing them now.
What does that, what does the program look like in action? What does it do? What are you doing?
What is different?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah, what's different? So one of the things that is a big struggle for a brain that has been traumatized, one of the just off the top big things that doesn't work is 7 class periods. They cannot keep 7 balls in the air, which is why Wainema has worked pretty well for us for many, many years. Because at Wainema, you go shorter days, you go 4 days a week, and you take 2 classes at a time, right? There's only 2 balls to keep in the air plus, your life. So, so this would be a situation where kids would work on 1, 2, possibly 3 classes at a time instead of trying to juggle 7. They would have the same staff in front of them for those 3, and then they would have mental health, individual counseling, group counseling, family support counseling, case management through DHS family coaches, all on site. So if that doesn't do it, that's like everything we can throw at it. Everything that we can do, we would do there and see if we can get kids there. I do think it will work for most kids. We are seeing it work currently currently we have these kids in classrooms with their specific staff kind of ignoring the rest of the building happening around them. It's not ideal because they still have to walk in the front doors, they still have to navigate, 1,300 kids, they still have to navigate lots of staff, and there's bells and there's things happening, but it's working better. But we're going to remove them from all of that and really give them exactly the services that they need and see if we can break that cycle. I was sharing, I don't, like 20 years ago, you know, we had some tough case kids where we would say, you know, sophomore, junior year, the chances of this kid's making it are not great, right? And you just full court press those kiddos, and the high school staff would work everything they could work, and we got those kids to graduate. And we would celebrate like, oh, we've got success, we graduated them. But now we have their kids in this program. So it's
I see what you're saying.
was it successful? You know, because we didn't really break the cycle. We're having the same issues so getting them across the stage, getting them the piece of paper does not necessarily solve the problem. We really are looking to give them a good life when they walk out the door. Like from this program, they should be fully ready to walk into a career, to be able to find housing, to maintain good relationships, to be able to hold a job, all of those things they would ideally get participating in this program. And they just need that more intensively than kids like what we would call typical kids, right? Because the typical school system works for the typical kids to get those skills because they have typical families and typical supports. But these are the kids that don't have that, so the typical school setting does not work for them. They need something completely different. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, very well, thanks.
Summer school. We've had great success with our Measure 98 8th through 12th grade summer school. So we want to add that for pre-K through 7th. So our summer school will now go pre-K through 12th. So different focus areas for different grades, obviously. But we think that we will implement equitable placement in college and CTE programs, equitable outcomes in college and CTE programs. Our kids, our target kids are here, and we're looking to impact ELD, disability, race, and poverty with these supports. We've kind of kicked around, do we do regions, like the 4 quarters of the district? And I think where we are right now is we're going to run it all out of high school. All roads go there, and the more we can concentrate our services, it helps with costs and staffing, with transportation and food and security and all of those things.
And that's specifically to attack the on-track numbers, right? That's what this one is targeting. 3rd grade reading, 9th grade on track, but also equitable. So we have to negotiate what our metrics are with ODE. And that happens after they accept your plan. They're not going to negotiate metrics with us on a plan they won't approve. So you guys get to approve the plan, then it goes to ODE. Once ODE says, yes, this all works, then we start negotiating what the metrics of it will be. But so one of the metrics we're proposing is equitable placement in college and CTE programs and equitable outcomes in those programs. So when we did our data review, one of the things that we noticed was even though our students of color and our emerging bilingual are graduating at sometimes a higher rate than our white kids, they aren't in our CTE and college prep courses at the same ratios that they exist in our population. So we're looking to change that. And then when they are taking those classes, they're not being successful. So we need to change both of those things. Would be an internal measure that goes beyond what the ODE measures are. We don't know if they'll let us use that as a metric, but that's a metric that we would like to see change. Makes sense.
Yeah. Questions on that one?
I think it's really exciting.
We need a whole bunch of classroom assistants, like as many as we can get.
An army.
And this speaks to the reducing class size. We don't have any more classrooms, but we can reduce the adult to kid ratio in this way. So research says you target littles first. So our metrics for this will likely be 3rd grade reading and attendance K3. But the way we've written it in the plan is to address high numbers and high needs. So that gives us the flexibility to place EAs in classrooms even if they aren't in the K3 where the need exists. The expanded college and career readiness opportunities. With this, we're hitting attendance, graduation, and that equitable access and outcomes. So we have a few things in this category. The Paxton Patterson Labs. This is actually a picture of the Paxton Patterson Labs. So they are labs, they're modules that come into a school building. They are not movable. So it's not like you can take them on tour. It's a lot of equipment, so you have to set up a lab somewhere. So right now we're looking at 3 labs in the district, 2 in our rural K-8s and 1 at the high school that our other rural schools would come to. So they would have to bus into the high school and visit that lab. That's a bummer because it shuts down their regular schedule and other things that are going on. But it's also good that they're coming to the high school and getting some experience there and some positive experience. We do that with outdoor school and 3rd grade swimming and some other programs. It's not unheard of. It's just going to be a little bit of a logistical challenge. So there are pre-programs that kids work through that feed into our CTE programs at our high school. So often what will happen is the counselors go out to the rural schools and they do beautiful presentations about these are all the opportunities you have in the high school, sign up for things. But kids, it doesn't really dawn on kids until they see something happening or they have an experience at the high school and then they say, oh, I really want to be in this program. Well, now they're a junior and they needed to really start that as a freshman. So they're not going to get all the way through the CTE program if they don't start right when they come in. So this is an opportunity for them to have some experience in those classes before they go in. So that's the Paxton Patterson. Then the college support classes, that speaks to that equitable access and outcomes. This will be support classes at the high school for any kid who's taking their first college class or any kid taking multiple college classes. Some kids do not need that. If you have like well-educated parents available to you at home to help support you through taking college classes, that works for them. But we're finding that kids who don't have that at home aren't successful in those classes, and fewer of them are taking it. So we'll have that support available for them at school. And then the regional CTE high school, you might have seen a lot of press about this recently. So exciting stuff. They have purchased the old Toys R Us building on Lancaster, and they're turning that into CTEC 2.0. But that will be for the 22 component districts of Willamette ESD to access. So there will be 6 or 7 programs of study there that our kids will have access to if we buy into this program. Yeah, it's really exciting stuff. All of these are. Which slide is my favorite? I don't know. Then we're looking at a STEAM TOSA, and we're looking for 9th grade on track attendance and equitable access again. We have had 3 of our administrators go through the STEM Leadership Academy. We have staffs who are like ready to move towards a STEM model, but it's just going to take some kind of intensive coaching to get there. What are the mindset shifts? What are the philosophical shifts we need to make? How do you package your instruction differently? How do you assess things differently? So it's not going to be like kids are going to be doing similar things, but it's going to look different when they do it. It will be inquiry-based collaborative learning and problem solving instead of working through concepts in textbooks. So that takes about 3 years to completely go from we don't know what STEAM is, but I don't think any of our buildings are in that boat. But to go from we don't know it all to a fully functioning STEAM school takes about 3 years. But we're thinking that one STEAM TOSA could start with the 2 schools that are ready to go now. And then if we continued that, if it was successful and it's something other schools wanted to take on, they could back off their time in those schools and take on a 3rd and then continue on if we decide that's the way to go.
What does an investment on that slide look like? I mean, that feels like something we could do anyway, but what's the investment
It's a teaching
part?
position. So this is a teacher on special assignment. Sorry, I'm using acronyms like an educator, and apologize. A TOSA is a teacher on special assignment.
Thank you.
So this is a coach to coach teachers on how to make this happen. Yeah, it's a position.
Okay.
Then a cultural welcome center. We're looking for attendance and equitable access and outcomes. So this translation services, hit and miss. depending on what staff you have in your building. Systems navigation, hit and miss. If you have somebody bilingual in your front office, or parents know who to go to and ask the right questions. And then the social and academic supports, how to access those if you don't speak the language, if you are homeless, if you live in poverty, how do you make all of this work? We want to have a support center for people to be able to go and say, I need this, and have people really walk them through the system to be able to access our system equitably. And then professional development. Our two focus areas for professional development will be equity in education and trauma-informed practices. Those are the two that I'm not sure really there are some content area things that have been requested, and those I think the ESD is going to be able to take on with the ESD, the state-funded initiatives part of SSA. They're going to be able to provide some more of those content-specific PDs, allowing us to focus on these, which are definitely our big overarching needs. And then we funded 2 work groups. One of them for a school-based support center, and we're having conversations about could that, like family cultural engagement center and the families, could that be one place, providing both services? We're hoping so. But this is for food, clothes, mental health, and navigation services. We have lots of things in our community that are available, great things, like we've got a community clothes closet, but it's open, a couple, I think on Wednesdays, right? And you have to drive out there. And we've got a couple of food cupboards, but they have specific hours and ways that you can access that. We've got walk-in support services, but you have to have a parent with you to access them. So we're looking for, like, how do we give our students access to these services they need? So probably we will access all of the same supports that exist, but we'll go get things and bring them in so that there's something that is accessible to our students. There's some of this that happens in a classroom in our high school, in our alt-ed classroom, and now in our middle school too. There's a classroom for that. But if you don't happen to be in that classroom or have a friend or somebody who knows, like that's where that stuff is and how to get it, it's not super accessible to everyone, and certainly not accessible for parents or families at all.
At the high school, is that Mrs. Brown?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mrs. Brown.
Is
So
that
it would be
similar?
like taking what she does.
Yeah.
We don't want to change what she does because it works for a population, but it doesn't work for the whole population.
So you're just expanding
Mhm.
essentially what she does?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then expanded educational opportunities. We know we want music, arts, STEAM, CTE, more PE, and technologies. We want those things in our rural schools, but we've yet to figure out how to make that happen. So this is a funded work group and a coordinator to do the research to figure out how to do this. It's just a pretty complicated conversation about which schools need what, at what times, on what days, and what does it look like. Somebody's just got to dive into this work and figure out how to do it. So that will be funded. Oh, and one of the questions, I did not do a good job of speaking to the questions I already knew about as I went through today. But one of the questions was, in the projected budget, why is this funded little in year 1 and a lot later? And that's because in year 1, it's just hiring a coordinator and a work group, funding a work group. But ideally, in year 2 and 3, we'd be funding the teachers that would teach that.
Oh, I
And
see.
for the transportation, for if they are extended day programs, then we gotta pay transportation and teachers to fund it. So we know like it will get much more expensive. Like the planning should be the least expensive, but then we'll have to fund the programs.
I mean, if curriculum's $500,000, but that's one, you do it.
1 year and you're done.
And then you
Yeah,
can,
1 year.
now you got that money, you're doing
Right.
something else with.
Exactly,
So,
right,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, some of these programs like have startup costs and then they'll shrink, and then these things would be the opposite of that.
Right.
They'll have planning costs and then operational costs will go up, so they'll balance that.
Oh, okay.
We're out of money now. But let me go through the questions that I already got. Oh, maybe we did hit them all. Tax and tax on this guy.
I have one for you if you,
Yeah.
if you were looking
Yeah,
for
go
one.
for it.
So you did mention the tag kids.
Yeah.
What percentage of that group do you think would be served by the therapeutic
Placement.
placement, and how, and then for the percent who aren't a good fit for that, do we have a way to address their needs or identify, get to that issue?
Yeah, our high functioning tag kids actually do awesome, and there are great
Okay.
supports for our high functioning tag kids, but there are some who are not. And so of the kids who are currently in rooms with staff, how many kids do you currently serve that are tag kids? You've got one, you probably have three.
I don't know how many.
Yeah. It's only like a total of 3 to 5% of our student population.
Okay,
Okay.
But they do tend to have very complex needs.
sure.
They can. I
Mhm.
mean, nationally, the tag dropout rate is rated at as high as 20%.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
It's just, they're tough kids to educate, and it's like working within our system, like they have little patience for it at times,
Mhm.
which understandable,
Yeah.
it's just not a system that is built for their specific needs.
Okay,
And not all of them, some of them are high functioning tag kids
Right.
and they do beautifully. But
Okay.
there are some that are just a lot more.
right, so they're really not a monolithic group. I mean, you really have to sort of
No.
address all the different,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
We know that with a high IQ can often come some mental health issues.
Mm-hmm,
And we know that, the higher your IQ goes, the more divergent your experiences
sure,
with people and school and conversations and communication.
yeah,
So it can be complex.
yeah, for sure. Okay. Now I had others.
I have a question. How many assistants would you like to see that it would satisfy an assistant? I know.
One in every classroom.
And how many would that be?
Right.
And that would help if the class was at a certain size. I would assume that assistant allows that balance. Like, let's say a class is carrying 20 to 30 or whatever. That assistant, that's probably where its greatest help and support is in that case. And so you would, at this time, would love to have an assistant in each class.
Yeah. The way that we've written this is any money that we don't spend on anything else, every dollar of that goes into hours. And we don't yet know, because we haven't done outside contract negotiations, we don't know what an EA costs us per hour, but we will write a total number of hours that we can afford into this plan and just start hiring them. And then we'll assign them out based on needs.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, one of the questions I had, you were mentioning the equity and the consultant. Can you share who the consultant is for your equity lens? I know that the board is eagerly awaiting a statement or policy in that area. But yes, could you?
I'm gonna let Wade speak to that if you don't mind.
Please.
The high school's the farthest in the work, but we're getting there.
So we, last year, started working with a woman by the name of Elizabeth Denevi, and she created a program called Teaching While White, and the idea was that about 80% of the teachers in the country are white, while about 50% of the population of students is not. So it's kind of creating a difficulty in how do teachers address these equity issues when they oftentimes don't even understand what these issues are.
Correct.
And so we began working with her. We would ultimately introduce her to Paul in our district, and she would begin working with our district in creating that equity tool. The high school has just recently created a number of different committees, or is in the process of creating a number of different committees that is actually going to kind of pilot that equity tool and start looking at curriculum, start looking at handbooks and policies, start looking at just a number of different, even going so far as bell schedules, just to say what are some things that we can do that we can take a close look at through this equity lens that will better serve all of our students. So, so that's what we're doing. That's who the district is using.
She spoke on October 11th. She was the main speaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she spoke right there. A few of us were there, I think.
Yeah,
That was the, okay, good.
And
I
John
heard her.
Linson,
John Linson,
and then, what's her name?
Elizabeth
Denevi.
No, there was, on the October 11th, we had
Moses,
three speakers.
Christine.
Christine Moses,
Moses,
yes.
Oh, right.
And then
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth Denevi was sort of the main program.
Oh, okay, very good.
And she'll be back working with our staff on some equitable grading practices shortly as well. So she's doing a lot of the work for us.
Oh,
with
nice.
us, I
Okay.
suppose, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so we will be taking questions and feedback.
Yes, I was supposed to get on this, I'm so sorry. Too many balls in the air today. That on our website, there is the feedback at Silver Falls button that you can just click and give feedback or ask questions, or of course, our email addresses are easily accessible, so feel free to utilize those as well.
Okay.
That's all the questions
As
you
we,
have?
if we get a whole bunch of questions and we start seeing some trends, then we'll put out like an FAQ type document just to answer those kind of questions.
And so you're still, just to clarify, you're still doing focus groups and you're gathering information continually. And when is that just an ongoing commitment the district has, or is there a drop-dead date and various groups?
It has to be ongoing. Notice the SIP plans, the district is continuous improvement plans.
Right.
You constantly have to be measuring, is what you're doing working, and continuing to gather feedback, is are you doing the right work, and is the work you're doing working? So
Okay.
there will be no end date.
Oh,
So-
okay, very good.
So along those lines, how do you see the youth truth data bearing on this? I mean, this feels like you're at that time now where this has to start becoming finalized, right?
Yeah.
But you sort of hold it loosely until you've gathered all of that data and analyzed it, or maybe just use that to sort of validate.
We don't expect to see anything divergent from the feedback we've gotten. Our feedback's been very, remarkably consistent.
Okay.
So we don't think there will be anything divergent from that.
Mhm.
But we know that students and parents are going to express some issues around equity, and they're going to express some issues around mental and behavioral health, being able to access things. But these are things that are addressed in the plan. But then we still can use the information for the parts of the plan that we've created to address that, to focus those efforts on those specific groups of students.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're hiring, 5 additional mental health professionals, right? But that youth truth data is going to be gold for them in identifying where are our issues, where are we doing well already that we're not going to worry about, and what are the issues we need to dive into right away. What are our most eminent issues, and which things is the staff really working on? Same with our equity stuff. I think that our equity team and our equity consultant and our teachers that are serving on our building equity team will be able to look at their data specific to their building and say, our parents and kids and teachers, all 3 of those groups are saying, we think we don't have an equity issue in this building. However, our students think we do. What is it? Where is it? And then that is the work that we'll be doing.
Okay.
So I think that it's going to say the same thing. Now, if it doesn't, we have a problem, right?
Right.
So we have to work quickly.
Right. Quick, rewrite the plan.
I think that these are the things that are going to continue to come, because they are the things that have come up for the last 18 months.
Right.
But it still is going to help us focus in on where that work needs to be.
And we anticipate doing that youth truth every year? Is that is that sort of an annual? It was nice and short. I appreciated that it was quick.
If it gives us the data we need and it's usable for our staff,
right?
Then absolutely, yeah. If it does what it is advertised to do,
yeah. And if not,
exactly.
try something else. Yeah.
Right. I always say when we try something new, I'm like, in theory, yes, because certainly we've seen things not pan out as advertised, but
right.
I mean, it looks great, and it's sortable data. You guys are going to have to work the dashboard because you can sort by buildings, you can compare that to national averages, you can compare it to like communities, like schools.
Right.
You can sort by all of these demographics.
Right. So will we have an opportunity then to get that data to play with?
Oh my gosh. I know.
That's very exciting.
I know.
Thank you.
It's great dashboards that we can, let's sort by this, let's look at this. And I think that one of the things that will be great about that data in the equity and trauma work both with the professional development stuff is I think that our needs are really different building to building. And it will really help us focus on what those needs are. It's not going to be a one size fits all for our professional development. It needs to be.
That's important.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I had one last question.
In theory, it is fantastic. We'll see.
In theory, yeah.
Yes. When you're determining these groups and these focus groups, is there like a rubric or something that is through the Oregon Department of Education, or how do you determine that, or do you have a group that helps decide how the focus groups are constructed? Because I hear about them, but I do not know how they're put together.
Yeah, so there's a list in the SIA plan, actually, of the focus groups, of the groups of people they recommended we engage.
Oh, great.
So we have a fairly small town, so that was pretty, so when they say city leaders, those are easy to find.
Yeah.
Right?
They are,
When
yes.
they say business owners in your town, those are easy to find. And when they say clergy in our town,
Oh.
we say like, okay, that goes to our ministerial society, they're invited. And, you know, so that,
just work
yeah,
down.
you just work down but then in addition to that, we do several layers of open to everyone. So there's the potential that certain people, if they wanted to go to their invited focus group and respond online and attend both of the open forum focus groups, that they could have 4 sets of input.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
potentially. I don't know if we had anybody do that, but it's possible. So,
Okay.
yeah, we have those that ODE outlines for your plan, and then we do the email out to everyone, and then we hold 2 a year that are just open.
Oh, okay,
I will
great.
say though, like some of the stuff that we need to start capturing and using, like the audience with visitors, you see some of that reflected in our plan. So your board meetings, people who come and speak audience with visitors, we use that as engagement data.
Oh, okay.
And that's in our plan. So, yeah,
Okay, great.
any feedback we get from the community, we want to
Right.
use.
Engage in using. Excellent.
Our teachers would like us to stop surveying. Just we'll take a little break. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of surveys for our staff in just in a short time, but they'll be ready again by spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
I've got one
you.
more
The
question.
teachers are like, no, we will not be.
One more question.
Yeah.
So, in a district like ours with really pretty high success rates in a lot of
Yeah.
categories,
Yeah.
does that put us at a disadvantage? I mean,
Yes.
how do you move
I
bars?
don't think I don't lose
That-
sleep about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, because some of these bars are gonna be really hard to
It's a
move.
narrow margin.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we know though, one of the questions I got was, that I had mentioned in the previous board meeting about our kids that aren't graduating share a common profile.
Right.
So yes, the board had asked 3 years ago, of the kids who aren't graduating, why are they not graduating? We want you to go back and look at every single kid and kind of come up with give us a read, is it this, or this? And we said, it's a complex profile of many of these things, particularly mental health poverty.
Yeah.
That's where our issues are. And I checked today, based on the question I'd gotten with our person who tracks that at the high school currently, and I said, of our current non-completers,
Right.
how many fit that profile? And it was all of them but one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, so that's a bar, like if we're ever gonna get to 100% graduation, we have to do a placement different than our high school, because we know our high school will not work for a population of those kids. Those are
Okay.
the ones we lose. So that's why, every district is saying like they need that placement opportunity, but we're the ones doing it because we have nowhere to go without that. Right? Those are the kids we aren't getting. We won't
That's a
move
good
our
point.
graduation bar until we do that.
Yeah,
So
Oh, okay.
other districts get to benefit from that. But
right.
yeah.
We have no low-hanging fruit.
Which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
it is.
And I would say our low-hanging fruit are not the ODE measures. They're the things like, yes, all of our kids, or most of our kids are graduating, but are they all having an equitable opportunity in our school system?
Oh,
Are
I
they
see.
getting the same experience? Are they getting all of the opportunities that we can possibly offer them? Those are the things that we have to
Yeah.
look a little bit closer at.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, we will have to negotiate that with ODE. Salem Kaiser ended up with just 4 metrics for their whole $39 million plan. I currently have 7 in ours, so that's probably not gonna fly. So again, that's a negotiation with ODE. But it's because we have
Right.
we have very few issues, which again, great, but it's gonna be hard to move the bar. I do lose sleep about that. Because you do have to show that what you're doing is working.
Right.
So, no pressure.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
You're
speaking of that,
gathering
what's the metric for the Paxton Patterson Labs?
Now we're looking
investment?
for equitable access. So what is happening with that is our kids who are lower level, which tend for us to be our students of different race, our emerging bilingual kids, and our students experiencing poverty. Sometimes our students with disabilities, but not as much as you would think, but getting access to our CTE programs. They're not accessing those programs at the same rate. Some of that is because they're not feeding straight from their 8th grade programs into those high school programs. So we're going to try to jumpstart them right into that, make that more fluid. Some of it is because they're taking support classes.
Math lab,
Yes,
for example.
right,
Yeah.
so we're hitting that with the summer school.
So they lose an elective
Right,
because they're taking the support classes to help.
Right.
with it.
right.
Right, so what Paxton Patterson will tell you, in theory, is that kids will have more intrinsic motivation to get those skills caught up in order to access those programs once they know what they are.
Yeah.
It's not very effective, like Sarah teaches middle schoolers, sorry, I just put you on the spot, but it's not super effective for her to stand in front of her kids at Central Hall and say, if all of your skills are up to this level, you can access a health services program. They have no idea what that is, right? They have no frame of reference to put that in. That's not exciting, that's not a motivation, right? But you do the Paxton Patterson, oh, there's no picture there anymore, modules in health services, they get a glimpse of what's waiting for them. Now they're a little bit more motivated to do that. Now they attend summer school, now they access the after-school supports, now they kind of get there.
And
They
which,
should have an opportunity
which
to get there.
populations are we targeting for those?
Students of different race, emerging bilingual, and poverty. Students experiencing poverty.
And that's mostly in what schools?
All of them. The Paxton Patterson Labs will hit all of our middle school students across the district. Yeah. In theory.
Lots of work to do.
In theory. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see. We'll have to see, right? If that doesn't pan out, what I'm hearing is ODE is not expecting those metrics to jump quickly. So you don't do 1 year Paxton Patterson Labs and now you've got equitable enrollment in your CTE classes. It's
Right.
going to take a little bit of time, but
Sure.
over time,
catch up,
like when
yeah.
kids in the middle school, so you bring these in, like the middle schoolers start to have these experiences. Now the 5th graders and like they see it, they experience it too. Now it's like this is how we do school. And if you get to this level, you get into these programs, or you can sit in math lab the rest of your life. Then the motivation goes up, the attendance goes up.
So can you explain a little bit on the other end of graduation? So are there going to be any graduation adjustment requirements to, or are we keeping all of that the same?
Lord willing.
But with all of this, or wanting to try to implement all of this, does that give food for thought of, okay, well, there's requirement for graduation, by the state and, and by us, and, what does that look like visually, when they get to be 12th grade? There's all these different components now that you're wanting to put in. So can you help explain that, just so everybody can understand what that means at the end?
Yeah, so no kid has to participate in any college or career courses to graduate from high school currently.
Yep, I know that.
They can take them to serve as their electives, which are required, but survey says that if they do participate in those, they are more likely to graduate and they have a higher success rate after high school.
Okay.
That's why we push participation in one or both of those programs. The only graduation requirement that's on the table currently is essential skills. And if that went away, that'd be big. Yeah. But we don't have any say in that.
Right.
It's a state level.
So that's a, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
To the swings, right?
It does. It's
like
you're at one end and now, right? Exactly.
Career-related clusters, themes, and then we swing out with No Child Left Behind.
Right.
We're like everybody's going to be ready to go straight into a 4-year college.
Right. And then it comes
we're
back.
swinging back the other way. So I think the dropping of the essential skills will be part of that, and certainly the focus on CTE along with career readiness. I think that doesn't swing completely this time, which I thought was interesting and maybe a little bit more effective because the college readiness is still there. It didn't go away.
Right.
But alongside of it is career readiness, which I think is
right.
right on.
That's the change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be nice to have kind of a different, yeah.
Everybody storm the Capitol.
Right.
Essential skills.
There you go.
Have the
Yeah.
students.
carry that.
Yeah.
You might get some movement there.
No, I recently read about a program that the community colleges are adopting because they have terrible completion rates.
Yes.
And it's about developing pathways for students that they can see from the beginning, right? So it's not just ad hoc classes, oh, maybe I'll take this, maybe I'll take that. It's, they call them meta majors. So it's like setting this whole pathway. And it sounds a little bit like what you're starting with the middle schoolers who may be less inclined to sort of be able to see that path for themselves, is to say, hey, let's take a look at what this would look like if you stuck with it and where you'd not end up when you're done. And it just gives a little bit more structure to and meaning around why am I here and why am I showing up every day. So, yeah.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
key. And if you do, yes, context and relevance. And, you know, there's our admin team is kind of split on the attendance thing, like because there's different ways you can go on attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the team, my team, is relevance and context is what improves attendance,
Yeah.
right? If they are invested in what they're doing, they're going to show up and do it.
Yeah.
If it's not relevant, they're not super motivated to show up and do it.
Yeah.
Right? No, there's the other side, that there are also kids who just, I'm not doing it and you can't make me, and there's like some consequence stuff that's appropriate there. But for the most part, it's
Mm-hmm.
context and relevance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. Okay.
Can't overemphasize enough the countless hours of inputs and the assembling of all that data. Thank you, Director Hannah, for your
Yes.
work in doing that.
Thank you.
To all the people who
Can you send it out?
who had a hand in giving us feedback and coming to our.
Yes, very good.
You want to go pass it right now?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Very nice.
Can you put
Excelente.
this to?
Yes, we'll get that PowerPoint, we'll
Oh,
put it
don't
up
do that
on
one
board.
because that's outdated.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah.
everything that's in
Draft.
there is all drafty stuff.
Just very, very drafty.
Okay, we have one last item tonight that we need to take care of.
All right.
We do need to approve the next school calendar.
Oh, yeah.
So that's,
Which was,
And we looked at it, right?
we did last time.
Any
We did last
changes?
time.
No changes?
no changes from what there be like.
Well,
One thing that is different on here, just the red box there with the freebie day.
Choose a better word.
Yeah, we're gonna come up with a more technical term for public release, but I liked it. But
I understand exactly what it is.
Yes,
It's all the
yes.
reading.
Plain
But this
language.
was a change in our contract with the teachers, and so through the forum process, Kevin Palmer led. Sarah was there for that, I believe. Yes.
I missed that meeting.
Oh, sorry. You had your opportunity. And so these were days that the forum committee recommended as makeup days in the case of inclement weather.
okay.
That's great.
Climate change, we'll never need
I
it.
love having the days determined.
Yeah, I
I
do.
think that is a
Great.
huge plus.
Yep.
They're already
Yeah.
set.
Yep.
We're not adding days to the end of the school
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
People know what the plan is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Much
think
better
this is
plan.
a huge
Yes.
plus for the
Excellent.
yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Right,
Yep, keep the red box every year. That's good.
yeah, right.
Okay.
And it seems like there's cut and dry as far as where the weights lie in
Right.
this year, so there's not a lot of
Yeah.
choices.
Kevin did a great job of soliciting feedback. We took it to classified labor management last week. Both Kevin and I didn't realize we did this, but I checked in with their leadership again today. Made sure that there was no issues or concerns. Hearing none, we said, well, we're bringing it tonight.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great.
If there is by chance something that got missed, we'll just bring an amendment to it, you know, in
Okay.
April or whatever.
Not catastrophic.
But-
Okay.
Those things happen, but
I-
I think it's ready to be approved tonight.
Oh,
I'll make a
okay.
motion if
Yeah.
it's a good time to do that. I'll move to accept the 2020-2021 school year calendar for the Silver Falls School District.
Yes, I
So moved.
second.
Moved in second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the next year's school calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And with that,
Don't adjourn yet.
I do have other items.
You do have
I'm
other
getting
items.
there.
Don't skip the other items.
With that, we're on to other items.
Oh, it's just a small item. I just wanted to not lose sight of our commitment to training and whether there was anything we needed to do to set dates for that. Did we decide to just kind of do a wait and see, or do we need to actually kind of at least commit softly to a month that looks good? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, we've done it, historically, we've done them through the summer, which can be hard too. But usually during the school year, there's stuff going on all the time.
Right.
So with superintendent search kicking off,
Yeah.
I kind of would prefer personally to wait until we get through that.
Okay. It did, and now I think I'm remembering the answer to my question. Didn't we say something about like by August?
It was by
By
August.
August. Okay. So I think we just
We
make
have some
sure
time, yes.
that we get into June and July. We just don't let that time slip away because it's easy
Correct.
to have that
It would
happen.
be easy to have
Yeah.
happen.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Any other? Okay,
All right.
with that, meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Before 10 o'clock.